The idiot Lord marries 5 beautiful goddesses. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 151, Summoning Fear. High above the head, under the bright moonlight, a bright red flag fluttered in the wind, mocking the enemies. There were almost no cavalry left alive, most of them having been killed and trampled along with their rider. The battle continued without interruption, and both sides were on top of each other trying to brutally crush each other without any shred of mercy. What seemed like 100 narrow spears were shot through the air and finally landed on the hearts of the men. Spears and arrows were fired from both sides, whistling through the air before ending the lives of the soldiers. The battle did not stop even at night, as the joint forces of Nevin and Wright advanced without any concern. Amidin had long since adopted a defensive stance, trying to outlast their enemies and corner them there and not let them enter Amidin. But the other side didn't have the luxury of taking it easy, as their queen's life was at stake, so their morale and courage were at their highest as they tried to outdo the Amidin soldiers. Their blood was burning with anger as their eyes burned with the flames of patriotism towards their kingdom. While the infantry and foot soldiers were facing each other, another battle of enormous scale was taking place on the other side. The battle between the epic ranks. Ria's dagger danced as it cut a path of blood across the battlefield, slicing through anyone who entered her eyes. But her rampage didn't last long, as she was held back by 3 pseudo-epic rankers. If they came one by one, Ria would have already cut them into thousands of pieces, but they came at her at once with incredible coordination, making it difficult for her to deal with them. Mordek and Longard had already been attacked by another of their pseudo-epic rankers, while another was killed by Christina. At this moment, Amidin's forces of 17,000 soldiers were facing off against her 11,000 soldiers. There were still remnant forces in Amidin as the city still refrained from deploying its full strength. Clamo. 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 Only faint shadows could be seen appearing and disappearing out of nowhere. They moved like a flash, invisible to the naked eye, and collided with each other, creating loud collisions strong enough to shake the place. Ria's chest rose and fell and her expression began to turn ugly as another pseudo-epic ranker made his move and blocked her attack while the other 3 attacked her. Ria slashed her dagger a few times and retreated through the opening created due to her fierce attack. As she retreated, she touched her cheek, where a cut appeared and blood was gushing out. A strong murderous intensity flashed in her eyes, and this time she was angry at these moles who like to play hide and seek a lot. A pseudo-epic stepped forward with a sneer, but his eyes widened in fear as the wind blew towards his body and a wind of blades fell upon him. Bang! Bang! The blades threw him to the ground and caused cuts all over his body. The sudden attack took him by surprise, and he looked around to see Christina appearing on the battlefield. "Ria, are you okay?" he asked with a worried expression. "I'm fine. I didn't get hurt." "Should you get some rest?" Ria advised him. "No, I've recovered enough already. Let's finish them off," he said, and looked at the 4 pseudo-epic rankers. "We need to use our special powers. The Lord might have told you something," Ria muttered. Christina briefly nodded and her body began to become enveloped in a golden glow. Ria raised her dagger and narrowed her eyes. Her irises turned purple and her hair grew longer, having a purplish edge as her body erupted with a purplish aura. Purple mist emanated from the pores of her body and floated around her. A huge majestic figure materialized behind her with a mischievous expression. Similar to her, the golden light behind Christina materialized into a majestic figure holding a sword in one hand while a sword in the other. The power of both of them erupted, causing the space around them to tremble. Ria, who was about to slash with her dagger, suddenly froze as she felt an icy aura coming from somewhere and suddenly felt a subconscious fear that made her shudder. Even Christina felt something strange and frowned. But it didn't take long for them to understand the origin of the anomaly. A small humming sound whistled through the sky, followed by a loud thunderous boom that roared across the night sky. The soldiers fighting each other suddenly stopped, and many even dropped their weapons as they felt a tingling sensation of fear creep up their backs and grab their necks. Boom! With a loud crashing sound, the sky above the battlefield split apart and a blood-red distortion suddenly appeared in the sky. A blood-red aura of death suddenly appeared above the people who were dead, floating in space and flying into the sky and condensing in front of the person. When the blood-red distortion appeared, the entire heaven and earth seemed to tremble and the world instantly fell silent. Countless eyes that seemed to be hidden fell upon that place. The man's blood aura begins to grow stronger and stronger and soon spreads across the horizon. The entire night sky turned crimson. People looked up and saw that the moon at this moment was dyed a blood-red color. The man who had appeared with long hair fluttering in the air defying gravity suddenly opened his eyes. Suddenly, a sense of déjà vu washed over us, and suddenly, a fear of death broke out deep within everyone's hearts. Many even wet their pants and hallucinated as if a deadly sickle was thrust into their necks. No matter friends or foes, everyone began to tremble, unable to understand what was going on. Nevin and Right Soldier, retreat, a deep, rough voice echoed through the place and sent shivers down one's spine. My lord, Ritia faintly muttered as she looked up and felt that there was something wrong with Alex, who had an aura as if he had killed countless people, which shouldn't be possible as far as she knew. Mordek gathered his courage and tried to utter the words that had been stuck in his throat with great difficulty. My Highness, what did you mean? I said retreat, Alex shouted, his killing intent growing stronger. No one spoke any more words, and they began to retreat as quickly as possible. Alex felt multiple gazes on him, and their gaze seemed to pierce through the entire veil. Do you want me to measure your eye? If not, get away from here, Alex said, warning them. The messengers who were there to witness the battle suddenly felt a sense of suffocation and were drenched in sweat. After giving them a warning, Alex looked at the Amidon soldiers and spoke weakly. I see that your life has been going so well that you have been unable to bear it and have come here to look for trouble. Chapter 152, Give my regards to the devil. Alex's image flashed and his figure floating in the air suddenly disappeared from everyone's sight in an instant. Ritia, who was looking up at the sky and watching Alex, suddenly heard a hoarse voice behind her that startled her. Ritia, go back, you've done your job. Ritia listened to Alex's words and without uttering any words she quickly took a step back. Alex walked forward holding the staff and standing on the edge of the cliff as he looked at the scene in front of him. He raised his head to see the panic and fearful expression on the Amidon soldiers. I'll give you a chance to surrender and keep your life, Alex said loudly. Alex no longer used the power of the devil's eye to scare them and only looked at their response. He wanted them to submit willingly of their own volition, not under the effect of the devil's eyes that would wear off after some time. The pseudo-epic ranks mocked Alex and saw him as a delusional idiot. Alex waited for a moment to see their response. Sure enough, many soldiers wanted to surrender, but no one had the courage to come forward. Anyone who tries their luck might be killed by the epic rank without mercy, so in such a situation they didn't take any risks. Moreover, they didn't believe that this guy who appeared here could reverse the situation so easily. With many pseudo-epic rank warriors leading by the numerical advantage, what could this guy do? Seeing that there was no response from the other side, he shook his head. He turned around to see the worried gazes of Ritia and Christina. Sure enough, they already realized that something was wrong with him. Christian and Ritia led the forces, leave 3,000 soldiers with Longard here while the rest of you lead the soldiers towards Amidon. I'll take care of things here and look for you after finishing it, but, my lord, would that be alright? Ritia asked. Alex, we don't have to rush too much. We can finish all of this little by little and then head towards Amidon, Christina explained, trying to persuade Alex to stop rushing. Alex shook his head and said, we can't do that, time is slipping through our fingers. With a heavy heart and a slight hesitation, Alex spoke. Amidon had decided to sell Christina in exchange for some benefits. I don't know who he made the deal with, though, we have to do it quickly, otherwise, Alex couldn't get out the words that were choking in his throat. Gritting his teeth to control his anger, he turned to the Amidon soldiers. You're all young? Instead of finding a good partner, settling down, having children, and taking care of your elderly parents, you all came here to wage war. Fine. Since you're all in a hurry to meet the devil, I'll make sure to send you there quickly. You can give my regards to the devil. Now die? Alex shouted and raised the magic staff he had taken after killing that witch. A massive magic circle appeared before Alex and emitted a terrifying power. Lightning began to crackle and an immense pressure began to radiate from the circle. The pseudo-epic ranker was alarmed by the scene and tried to dodge. Hell flame. The magic circle flickered with light and the temperature rose by many degrees, igniting the surrounding area. Doosh! A beam of concentrated firepower shot out from the magic circle towards the enemies. The beam spread for around a kilometer, decimating everything in its path. Boom! 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 The pseudo-epic ranked warriors were able to evade the attack with their agility, but those behind them were not fast enough to avoid the attack and entered the arc of the spell's destructive firepower. The beam of light shot straight to the ground, and everything that came into contact with it was instantly evaporated without a trace, leaving everything burning. Only loud groans of agony could be heard before everything turned to dust, leaving behind a scorched crack above which the ground had melted into magma, giving off hot gases. They hadn't woken up from the shock of the previous attack when they felt a strong force pressing down on them. The atmosphere suddenly seemed to freeze, and the air became stagnant as a terrifying pressure descended upon everyone, causing them to scream in fear. Everyone's expression abruptly changed and there was panic all around. A huge shadow appeared on the battlefield that blocked the weak rays of moonlight, causing them to look up subconsciously. Their pupils contracted and strength left their legs as soon as they looked up. Above them, huge fireballs seemed to be descending from the sky towards them. A torrent of flames had already begun to rain down upon them after the large fireball broke away from the entire place and set it ablaze. Many screamed and began to run back and forth, unable to fight back. The pseudo-epic ranks buckled up, and one of them soared into the sky and slashed at one of the huge fireballs that were descending. The large fireball was split into two parts by the pseudo-epic rank attack, but it wasn't enough to stop the attack, and the two split halves crashed onto the battlefield like a meteorite with a loud explosion that was followed by a shower of fireballs from the sky. Boom! A huge crater about 300 meters in diameter was formed by Alex's attack, burning everything in its arc as it crashed into the ground. The earth was split into hundreds and thousands of fragments, and rocks of all sizes were directly pulverized and crushed into dust that shot out everywhere like tiny bullet pieces capable of making a body riddled with holes. The ground rumbled uncontrollably and began to crumble due to the impact. The massive chasm and the cracks formed due to the attack swallowed many as waves of flames began to spread out like shock waves. Alex straightened his posture as he looked at the aftermath of the disastrous spell, and as he looked around he couldn't help but frown as he saw strong shock waves coming towards his army that could pose enough danger to wipe out many. Alex slammed the staff on the ground and waved his hand. With a wave of his hand, long, sturdy blocks of ice began to appear from the ground, which burst apart to form a massive embankment upon which Alex placed a barrier. The shockwaves struck the ice blocks and shook the place, shattering the ice wall into pieces due to the immense heat. Cloudy clouds of black smoke rose into the sky, leaving behind a large crater in the center where not even a corpse could be found. At the edge, there were burnt and charred pieces of the body that still had an expression of fear and shock on their face. "Damn son of a bitch, I'll tear you to pieces. Sinners like you should repent in hell." Alex looked to the right to see the pseudo who tried to show off by taking Alex's attack head-on and splitting it into two halves, increasing the scope of the destruction. He had a pained expression on his face as he looked at Alex as if he was looking at the enemy who slaughtered his loved ones and tortured them brutally. His right arm, which he used to hold the sword and kill the enemies, was gone, and currently, large torrents of blood were constantly pouring out from the shattered shoulder that at this point was nothing more than a pile of crushed flesh. With anger and rage clouding him, he lunged towards Alex and raised his fist to strike him with all his might. However, just before he could meet Alex, he felt a chilling aura and realized how much he had underestimated his enemy who had the power to cast such a spell, which also gave him a false impression that Alex was a mage who might be weak at the nearby level, but he understood things rather late. His face darkened as Alex raised his head, and the man saw a pair of dark eyes staring at him coldly. He felt like time had stopped, and it meant his nemesis. And before he could know what was happening, he felt a sudden surge of pain that shook his soul and made him look down. As soon as he looked down, he realized that today would be the day of his death, as there was a huge hole in his chest, and inside of it, everything was missing. In a matter of milliseconds, Alex punched and slammed his fist into his chest, and all the things in his chest burst out from behind, and the pieces of the organ along with his heart fell back like scattered pieces of meat. He died with his eyes wide open and wondered, how did this happen? But sadly there was no one to answer him. Chapter 153, The Devil's Stance. Under everyone's stunned gaze, the pseudo-epic ranker's body falls to the ground like a piece of dried twig with a large hole in his chest, while the heart and pieces of flesh had scattered into dust from Alex's punch that no one was able to witness. Thud. As his body fell to the ground, the remnants of the enemy forces awoke beneath the pile of rubble and debris. The pseudo-epic ranker began to pile up. Each of them had suffered a serious injury due to the previous attack, and many also had severe burns all over their bodies. The thought that the above could surely be a level 8, if not level 9 magic spell. Riaya and Christina looked at Alex and his silent expression. Although he seemed to be calm on the surface, the raging volcano beneath could be seen. The pseudo-epic ranker decided to team up against Alex and finish him off no matter what. Riaya, Christina, Mordek, and Longard all stepped forward to help Alex, but he raised his hand. Recover and recuperate. I'll take care of them, Alex ordered and threw the staff towards Riaya as he walked towards the battlefield. I've cleared the way for you. Christina will take command and invade the Amidon border, Alex ordered, and Christina immediately made preparations. There were 6 pseudo-epic rankers in front of him that could give him an incredible battle. Alex, with a fearless and cold expression on his face, unsheathed his sword and took his stance by putting his left leg forward. Devil stance, he muttered weakly. A burst of killing intent erupted from his body that condensed into a crimson cloud around him, giving him a blood-red aura. Behind him, the bloody aura seemed to condense into a majestic figure that held him up. Alex's eyes turned as dark as a black hole that could swallow everything. The pseudo-epic ranker pushed the soldiers towards Alex before taking a step forward. They wanted to exhaust Alex's strength because they thought that the previous spell might have already taken a toll on him. They just have to exhaust him and then kill him effortlessly. Furthermore, seeing Alex draw his sword after casting the spell, they thought that he must be a magic swordsman who was always considered inferior to others. Alex's eyes flickered coldly as he sensed their thoughts. Seeing the mass of enemies coming towards him, he raised his sword. Devil stance, test of the first form, Alex's sword flickered and he swung it towards them. Swish! A flash of light flickered, and the soldiers approaching Alex flew like pieces of paper and felt an invisible sword pierce through their bodies. The enemies on the front line were cut into pieces of vegetables, and their bodies were dismembered, and the pieces of their bodies fell into the air along with a trickle of blood. The second wave of soldiers was horrified by the scene, yet under the push of 6 epic rankers, they did not stop their movements. A pseudo-epic ranker could not bear it any longer and rushed towards Alex. While the pseudo-epic ranker followed by the soldiers were making their move, Alex noticed a movement and reacted as quickly as possible. Boom! An arrow as fast as lightning hit Alex, whose body was forced back a few steps due to the fierce impact. Alex was barely able to react and complete the magic to cast the barrier. A pseudo-epic ranked archer from the other side snuck up to attack him and kill him in one hit, but failed miserably, and worst of all, it attracted Alex's attention and ruined his cover. Alex gripped his sword tightly and made a huge leap and jumped towards him. Alex simply swung his sword and the heads of the soldiers started rolling on the ground. The archer was startled and loaded the arrow, shooting it at Alex with all his might. DUSSSH. The soldiers standing in front of him were stunned by the terrifying impact of the arrow that shot towards Alex like a missile. Devil stance, second form of judgment, a fierce coercion erupted from Alex as he swung his sword. The powerful arrow coming in front of him split into 2, and before the archer could react, an invisible sword struck him and passed by him, slicing him cleanly in 2. His eyes widened with a flash of disbelief as eternal darkness slowly covered his vision. It's not over, Alex shouted as he covered his sword in a crimson aura. Devil stance, third form punishment. As soon as Alex releases the third form, a huge sword materializes and cuts down everything in its path. The pseudo-epic rankers who tried to fight back felt helpless, and the soldiers were crushed and shattered into countless pieces. The remaining epic ranks tried to risk it all and began burning life force. They all decided to kill Alex even if they had to end his life. Alex mocked them after seeing them coming towards him. He was like a moth drawn to a flame before dying. Alex activated his demonic aura, which gave him a monstrous appearance. A series of flames began to burn above his sword, and a bright red flame exploded from Alex's body that set everything around him on fire. The corpse beneath him began to burn under the scorching heat. Hellfire is amazing, Alex muttered as he saw the destruction it was causing as it slowly spread. In an instant, Alex soared into the sky and covered over 200 meters in an instant and activated an acceleration to make his attack stronger. His body plummeted towards the pseudo-rank that attacked him, trying to kill him before his descent. Alex raised his sword and furiously slashed at them. Devil stance, fourth form, atonement. All of them were horrified by the power of the descending attack and felt fear of death, and before they could react, they were hit by a loud impact. Boo. Chapter 154. Advancing towards Amidon. As if several meteorites had joined together to cause a huge explosion, the earth shook horribly and a shockwave large enough to send Alex flying spread everywhere. There were no flashes of light and everything seemed to stop except for the rumbling of the earth, which grew louder and louder as if several thunderstorms occurred and fierce lightning bolts struck the ground, splitting it open. The shockwave spread so far and wide that all the corpses and soldiers were instantly crushed, and the trees that were miles away were instantly turned into dust. Within a radius of 2 kilometers away, everyone screamed horribly as a shockwave was formed by Alex's attack that seemed as if wind blades were slicing through them. Everyone who was hit by the shockwave was instantly struck and knocked out with bones shattered all over their bodies. But this was not the end. Following the shockwaves came a wave of flames that spread everywhere fiercely. Longard, along with the remaining forces that had retreated several miles, felt the earth rumble and tremble, which shook their position. They stared with fearful expressions at the massive mushroom-shaped dust cloud rising into the air. Explosion! 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 Rocks and soil shattered into rubble and formed a massive crater of mass destruction that will become a grave for thousands of soldiers. All the soldiers within the 2-kilometer radius erupted into a mist of blood, while the remaining ones that were able to stay alive even with missing limbs were unable to survive the sea of flames that appeared out of nowhere. The flames seemed to inflict a wound on their soul that brought them intolerable pain that a person could not endure without a strong will. The place had been completely destroyed by Alex's previous attack, leaving a huge footprint on the ground. Alex's body crashed onto the ground in the center of the crater. The previous battlefield filled with soldiers had suddenly turned into a desolate place, with a large number of dark clouds floating everywhere emitted by the sea of crimson flames. Roars of pain, deadly groans, and wails echoed throughout the place. Standing in the middle of the flames, Alex clenched his fist tightly as he closed his eyes while listening to the wailing of the people. Kill many, and if he keeps this up there will be no one left in this place. He raised his head to see the soldiers of the opposing forces standing there with pained and panicked expressions. Everyone who noticed Alex's gaze bowed their heads and begged for mercy. Alex's heart, which was burning after seeing the Amadan warriors use children to win the battle, softened a little. He did not make things difficult for them. Besides, he had to finish things quickly before the effect of the forbidden spell wore off. He thought about absorbing more essence, but taking too much is not good for him and may cause irrecoverable damage. If it weren't for the situation, he wouldn't use such means, and with the previous absorption, he had reached the peak of the epic rank and his current strength is enough to defeat the enemies. After asking longer to take care of things here, Alex's figure floated up and flew towards Amadan. Most of the forces had been defeated on the battlefield while the remaining ones were stationed in the capital. Thus, most of the territories had fewer soldiers and were short of manpower. And during that time, Nevin had dealt a very critical blow. They marched as fast as lightning, shattering everything that stood before them. Faced with the might of a large number of soldiers, most of the region fell directly. The army did not cause any harm to the common masses or disturb their lives, nor did it brutally kill the enemies. All those who surrendered were treated peacefully. They have only one goal in mind: to surround the capital and take back their queen. Although they were traveling as fast as possible, at the current speed it would take them at least 2 days to get there. Furthermore, as they have to face many obstacles, their speed will be slightly reduced upon reaching the capital. Although they would be tired and exhausted, the capital would surely have soldiers guarding it who could take this opportunity to finish them off. Alex, who used the flight spell at a large transverse distance, showed that his forces were marching forward and landed before them. We can't keep going like this. If we keep advancing like this, I'm sure we'll only be stepping foot into an enemy trap, Alex said as he looked at his worn-out soldier. Your Majesty, we should first consolidate our control of the areas we've taken, Mordek advised. Did you forget that we're not here for territories? Alex muttered as he thought carefully. If it wasn't a demonic state, he could have used the healing spell and goddess buffs to replenish his strengths. But since he can't, he has to think of other ways to finish him off. Before he left, he had absorbed the life essence of the 3 pseudo-epic rankers, which amplified his power but decreased his time limit. And the pain was getting worse by the minute. Mordek, don't stop the fight. Move at your speed. In the meantime, Ridaya and Christina will follow me to the capital, Alex suggested. My lord, are the 3 of us going to fight as remaining forces? Ridaya asked. Even though we're still strong, we shouldn't rush it, Ridaya tried to persuade Alex. Ridaya's right, Alex. We don't have the strength to overthrow the capital alone, Christina added. Don't worry. I'm alone enough for them, Alex muttered and put his arm around Ridaya and Christina. Ridaya and Christina were shocked by Alex's stubbornness. I don't have much time. I've used a forbidden technique to increase my strength. Once it works, I'll faint due to the repercussions, so, before I faint, I want to get this over with, Alex said, which scared both Raya and Christina, and they started to panic as they thought about Alex's situation. Mordek, take care of things here, Alex thought as his figure shot up into the sky like a comet. Chapter 155, Crisis. A messenger hurriedly ran over and entered the place where the king of Amidon was sitting. Angus enjoyed his drink as he waited to receive good news. He was very happy in the following days. With Catherine in his hand, he had a powerful card to play. On top of that, his victory was guaranteed, and the additional benefits he was going to gain would be enough to boost his kingdom above level 3. He heard the messenger's voice and asked him to come in. "What news do you have?" he asked in a pleasant tone. The messenger lowered his head and hesitated for a moment before thinking of what to say. Unable to muster up courage, he simply handed over the letter. "You can't read it? Don't you have a mouth?" Angus asked in an angry tone. Gritting his teeth, he said, "Your Majesty, the border battle has ended and we have been soundly defeated." "What?" Angus' expression stiffened. "Our forces were wiped out." "How is that possible?" he asked with a dazed expression. "What about the epic ranks?" Angus asked. "All dead." Angus felt like he had been struck by lightning upon hearing the messenger's words. They were pseudo-epic soldiers, not pseudo-normal ones. How could they be killed so easily after we had wasted countless resources on them? He muttered to himself. "Your Majesty, there are more." Angus rolled his eyes and wanted to kill that man before he heard any more bad news. Wright's soldiers seemed to be invading our land and were marching towards the capital. "They dare!" Angus shouted and slapped his armpit, crushing it into dust. "Those bastards are there to enter my land. Who allowed them? Did they even ask this king before setting foot on my land? These idiots. I have to handle everything by myself." We have additional information. The King of Nevin, accompanied by Lady Christina and another anonymous figure, is heading straight towards the capital. Angus' eyes lit up at his words. Angus' lips curved upwards in a sinister smile. Does he think he can take down the entire capital alone? Pass on my orders. Ask all soldiers to gather at the walls. Place the flare on the walls and activate the defensive runes. I will make sure to collect the debt along with the interest. Alex, holding Raya and Christina, flew through the sky hurriedly and arrived at the capital of Amidon. There was still some time before dawn. Alex did not continue straight and landed a short distance away from the city. Alex looked at the city walls that were filled with commotion. The archers and soldiers had already lined up on the city walls. It seemed like they had already heard of their arrival and were ready to confront them. If Alex had to guess, there would be approximately 2,000 people on the other side of the city wall, and there were probably more inside. "Alex, what are you going to do now?" Christina asked after seeing the soldiers guarding the walls. "I'm going to open the way." "How?" Christina asked. "I'll tear down the wall and make it fall," Alex replied without anyone chanting. "My lord, are you sure about that?" "Even I can't do that," Raya said with a worried expression. "I'm 100% sure. With my attack, I'm confident in destroying the wall," Alex replied. "I'm going forward, you two follow me after I destroy the walls." Alex raised his sword and stabbed forward as his body shot forward like a bullet. The image of a deadly skull appeared behind his body, and a red lightning bolt covered the blade of his sword, and at the same time, the path in front of him began to tear apart. A crimson bolt of lightning shot out from the tip of his sword, like a bolt of energy, and headed towards the city wall at an astonishing speed that was less than 100 meters away from Alex. The crimson beam of energy grew increasingly narrower, condensing into a devastating beam as it moved away from the sword, and in the span of an instant, it struck the walls. The soldiers and guards atop the city walls saw a beam of energy coming towards them with astonishing momentum, and were horrified for a moment. In the moment of distress, some shot arrows while others tried to attack it to neutralize it, but all was nothing in the face of the beam of destruction. However, when the beam struck the wall, instead of showing a scene of massive destruction, something unusual occurred that not even Alex had expected in his wildest dream. Countless magic circles and runes appeared on the city wall, creating a barrier, and a blue light erupted from the city wall. The beam of light collided with the activated barrier and was unable to penetrate it any further. The countless runes and magic circles shone with a brilliant light, and instead of destroying the attack, the beam of light deflected back towards Alex. Even before Alex could blink, the fierce beam of energy that Amidon fired appeared before him. Alex was taken by surprise and reacted immediately. Alex raised his sword to cut the attack, while on the other hand he tried to create a barrier, but even after this, he was hit by the highly concentrated beam of light. Boom. Bounce. Bounce. The ground collapsed, and even after neutralizing a part of it, Alex was hit by the attack. The ground crumbled beneath him and Alex was flung backwards like a ragdoll and crashed into the rocks, shattering them into pieces. Alex let out a stream of blood with a deep, heavy wound on his body accompanied by a deep burn on his left hand, rendering it useless. Alex's vision blurred and he felt dizziness wash over him, but he bit his tongue and bared his teeth to stop his consciousness from fading away. Damn it! Alex shouted as he stared at the runes. They were level 7 runes and shouldn't be something Emiden could afford. Surely there was someone much stronger than a level 1 realm behind this who could lend something like this to Emiden. Alex's attack was capable of injuring a transcendent ranker and at best could even kill him, but this rune was enough to deflect a transcendent ranker attack. Alex's legs were shaking as he tried to get up while blood poured out of his lips like a waterfall. He tried to lean on his sword to support his injured body. He needed some time to get used to the sudden pain that came with a splitting headache. But he didn't even have the chance to take a deep rest when he saw a bright light above the city walls. Alex's eyes widened in disbelief as he saw a massive mass of concentrated energy condense and then shoot towards Alex. Flare. Alex muttered as he saw the destructive beam coming towards him. He tried to move his body to dodge the attack, but his body seemed to be stuck in place. The relapse of the pain from the previous attack had paralyzed his body momentarily. Alex ran through his mind trying to find a way to escape the tragedy. However, before the beam of energy could hide him, Alex was hit by a strong force and was pushed out of the way. Alex turned his head to see soft, silky golden hair fluttering in front of him, hiding Christina's face as she pushed Alex to the side while unsheathing her sword to take the blow instead of Alex. Christina! Alex shouted, and before she could mutter anything, her vision was blinded by the sudden flash of light as the beam of light hit her. Boom! The place exploded with a loud bang, and the huge rocks in the place flew across the sky before disintegrating into smaller pieces that fell from the sky like a shower of dust. The ground exploded from the impact as dust and debris flew everywhere. A huge crack was formed from the impact and Alex, who was nearby, was hit by it and sent flying again. Alex's body was dragged away and slid across the ground as if he was a piece of a doll. Arg! A painful moan escaped Alex's lips. Alex's body didn't slow down and was about to crash into the tree, but Riaya appeared behind Alex and hugged him tightly, and his back hit the tree. "My lord, are you okay?" Riaya shouted in a worried tone, seeing Alex's condition. Her eyes filled with tears seeing Alex's body, which was full of burns. The top layer of his skin seemed to have been torn off in some places, and the blood had dried. Alex coughed violently as he tried to get up. Alex's breathing quickened and he looked at the spot as Christina saved him. When the dust settled, he saw that a huge crack had formed, and to his utter horror, Alex couldn't find Christina. Christina? Where's Christina? I did Christina. Alex shuddered in her speech. Sir, calm down. I can feel Christina's shallow breathing. Riaya, go find Christina. I'm fine, Alex ordered. Seeing Alex's frightening tone, Riaya knew that Alex was on the verge of breaking down and losing his mind. She fears that if something were to happen to Christina, her lord might really lose his mind. Biting her lips, she looked at Alex's worsening condition and decided to look for Christina's condition. She pulled Alex up, leaned him against a tree, and headed towards the crack. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 156, Crisis 2. A room was softly lit with lamps everywhere, illuminating the darkness of the night. In the center of the room was a desk on which were piles of papers. Yvonne was taking a sip of coffee while going through the documents. Because of the meeting, she had been quite busy and had to work even at night to finish things early. As she scanned the document, her eyes suddenly trembled and her expression turned terrible. Her hands shook and the cup fell from her hand. A painful moan escaped her lips and she clutched her chest tightly as she breathed heavily. What happened? Yvonne muttered with a pained expression as her eyes widened in disbelief. Lady Yvonne, the servants ran towards her seeing that something was wrong with her. Call the doctor, something happened to Lady Yvonne, the butler shouted and ordered the servants. No, don't call the doctor, Yvonne said as she gritted her teeth to suppress the pain. But Mom, I said stop. Leave me alone and get everyone out of here, Yvonne shouted and ordered everyone to leave. The servants tried to persuade her, but it was no use. Everyone, with a slight hesitation, finally left the place. Yvonne gritted her teeth as she tried to understand the situation. Is that fool seriously injured or something? No, his injury shouldn't cause any harm or transmit pain, Yvonne muttered as her eyes suddenly lit up. She remembered what the so-called priest said: when the other party feels extreme emotion, they can transmit it to the couple. But the transmission would only occur between husband and wife. The girl's intense emotions wouldn't be transmitted. This means that something must have happened to Alex. She could experience endless pain and emptiness and the fear of losing something precious. Why the fuck am I feeling pain due to emotion? Yvonne muttered. Alex, are you okay? Yvonne said as her eyes began to fill with tears. She had already sent some experts to keep the situation under control, but she also ordered them to act only on matters that weren't under control. Inside an ancient ruined church. On a small bed, Athena was sleeping peacefully. Her eyelashes fluttered and her peaceful expression began to change as if she was having a nightmare. She was drenched in sweat and began to fidget and breathe rapidly. Alex, she screamed and woke up from her dream. Breathing heavily, she woke up from her dream with a feeling of unease. She had a bad nightmare where Alex was hurt and his body was riddled with the wounds, and then someone shot him. But before she saw anything else and what happened to Alex, she woke up. Her forehead was filled with beads of sweat. As she breathed in relief, thinking that this was all just a dream, a grimace appeared on her face. She felt a deep pain in her heart and her heart began to tighten. Don't tell me this isn't a nightmare, Athena said as she placed her hand on her chest. Her heart was beating very fast and she had an ominous feeling. Furthermore, she could sense the emotion Alex was going through recently. I have to make a trip to Yvonne to find out what happened, Athena said and stood up from the bed. With a wave of her hand, the night dress disappeared and her body was covered in a white holy robe, and a long golden staff appeared in her hand. Her body began to exude a holy light, followed by rhymes of holiness that gave her a feeling of majesty. Her expression turned cold as she recalled Alex's injured figure. With a single step, his figure instantly disappeared. As the dust disappeared, Alex looked at the huge crack with a stunned and hollow expression. An intense sadness invaded his senses. The shock and feeling of despair made him disconnect from reality. Anxiety and guilt took over him and clouded his mind. He started cursing himself for being hasty. No, this can't be, Alex shouted as his throat trembled a little. Even though Raya tried to calm him down, his heart was a mess. Christina, Alex shouted, getting up and running towards the crack with staggering steps. Please let her be okay, Alex prayed in his heart and begged the goddess for Christina's safety. As he got closer to the crack, he saw a disheveled figure lying amongst the pieces of rubble and debris. Alex saw Raya sitting next to Christina. Alex jumped into the crack that was 4 meters deep and landed next to Christina. She saw Raya checking her out. Raya, is she okay? Alex asked with a panicked expression. Alex looked at Christina's figure. The armor had been destroyed by the impact, leaving only pieces of underwear. There was a sharp stone stuck in her shoulder which had formed a hole. There was a deep burn on her face and stomach, and her face was pale as a sheet of paper as blood ran down her forehead. Healing, Alex shouted but stopped as he remembered that he couldn't use a healing spell now. And after the forbidden spell wore off, he would be paralyzed for a few days. Raya, what should I do? Should we leave and seek treatment? Christina's condition isn't good. She's losing too much blood, Alex said with tears in her eyes. We need to find a healer or a doctor, but the other town is too far away. Raya bit her lips and said, Alex, the quickest way to save her is there. Alex looked at Raya, who pointed at the capital of Amidon, where there might be healers and who knows, there might even be healing potions. Alex's eyes widened at the sight of the city walls. While he was lost in his thoughts, he felt a gentle touch on his cheek and looked down to see Christina caressing his cheek as she looked at Alex's panicked expression. Alex. Alex heard his name called in a tone as soft as the wind on the grass in spring. Chapter 157, The Descent of the Nightmare. Christian, how do you feel? Please Christina, don't die early, we have a long way to go. You have to fulfill your revenge and you still need to live with me until we're old. Then, Christina, please. Alex spoke frantically and tears rolled from her eyes. My lord, Raya saw Alex's disheartened expression and her heart tightened greatly, and she wanted to do something to ease his pain. This was the first time she saw her lord so desperate. Alex, I'm fine. I just need to recover, Christina murmured. Perhaps because of the current situation or seeing Alex's miserable expression, her tone was rather gentle while there was no indifference on her face. This sword protected me at the last moment. Without it, I might have to part ways with you, Christina said as she gathered all her strength to raise the sword. Alex was horrified to see the sword's current appearance. It was a legendary grade sword and its power seemed to be blocked before. She formed a shield around me and protected me from dying at the last second, Christina explained to Alex. So, Alex, don't worry. Do your job and bring Catherine back, Christina muttered under her breath, her last trace of consciousness disappearing. Alex was about to speak, but his voice was cut off halfway by loud, raucous laughter. Ha 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 ha, this is what you get for defying me, foolish boy. Who gave you the courage to stand before me alone? Alex's blood boiled at the mocking words. He stared at the man who seemed to be the king of Amedan. His name was Agnes, and to Alex's surprise, he had reached the transcendent rank. Angus looked straight at Alex and laughed at his condition. If Ride and Nevin had accepted my condition and surrendered, you wouldn't have to go through all this. Likewise, they will watch helplessly as I take away their wives one by one. Ha 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 ha. Alex's eyes turned bloodshot and he looked at Christina and gently kissed her forehead and stroked her hair. I'll take care of them in one fell swoop. Everything will be fine. Just get some rest, Alex muttered and took Christina's sword, which twitched a little in Alex's hand. Alex stood up and started walking towards the wall with unsteady steps. Raya, take Christina and take care of her, Alex ordered before heading towards the city walls. The entire atmosphere turned cold and icy storms began to blow. A crimson glow slowly began to radiate from Alex and crimson lightning began to flicker from Alex's body. With every step Alex took, the ground rumbled and began to tremble. The entire place seemed to have turned crimson. Angus felt a massive amount of energy radiating from Alex and immediately shouted, "Fire the flare!" The soldiers began to recharge the flare with many crystals upon hearing the king's order, but it took at least 3 minutes for the flare to recharge. The sword in Alex's hand shone fiercely and burst into lightning that flickered like thunderstorms. Everything that was struck by lightning was instantly shattered. The mana around the place swirled around Alex, and Alex's killing intent condensed on his sword, and his eyes flickered with a cold murderous aura. The goddess of war uses the positive emotions of others and turns them into her power. Since I don't have those emotions like the devil, I will feed on all those negative emotions and turn them into my strength. Alex raised his sword pointing at the sky, which was followed by the loud and deafening roar of the heavens. A huge beam of crimson-colored condensed mass of energy shot out from the sword. The crimson-colored beam shot straight into the sky, bursting with strong pressure from all sides. It seemed like the beam of energy was going to pierce the sky and tear it apart. Boo-hoo! The entire sky seemed to tremble. Lightning flashed in the sky. Strong gales began to blow everywhere, heralding the impending destruction. Angus began to panic as he saw the beam of light shot out from Alex's sword that even made the earth tremble. "Fire the flare! You morons! Fire the flare!" Angus screamed like a madman. "There's still a minute left," the soldier shouted. "Do it quickly, you bastards," Angus shouted in fear. He could sense the danger coming from Alex, and when he looked down, he met Alex's piercing gaze that was enough to tear him apart 1,000 times. He flinched a little at the sight and took a step back when he heard Alex's loud words. "Rather than showing mercy to the world and expect it to bite me back, rather than suffer such terrible, sickening pain from losing my loved ones, I'll even set the rain on fire and watch it until it burns the world into insanity. Come on, Excalibur of destruction," Alex roared and slashed, pouring out all of his frustration and pain. The beam of energy that seemed to pierce through the sky fell straight onto Amedan. The flare finally ignited, and in the end, it shot towards Alex, but a beam of energy descended upon it and destroyed it completely. The crimson beam grew larger and finally descended upon Amedan's wall. The runes and magic circles engraved on it began to appear again, but under the power of the attack, everything was shattered. The barrier shattered like a fragile piece of glass and could not even offer resistance to the attack. Finally, it brought down the city walls, illuminating the entire area and dispelling the darkness of the night. Boom! Broom! Broom! The earth vibrated and began to tremble like waves of the sea, emitting great rumblings throughout the entire city, sowing fear in the hearts of everyone. Such a large-scale destruction was not something an ordinary man could imagine in his lifetime. The walls exploded from the center up and were instantly pulverized into countless pieces. The beam of light stretched out for 10 kilometers and wiped out everything in its path. Behind the walls, people's houses, Checkpoints, roads, and all the buildings shattered and flew into the air. Everything that was hit by the beam exploded and flew away. An explosion similar to a mini atomic bomb occurred, and all the soldiers on the walls shuddered from the impact and flew away. Alex completely attacked the destroyed front of Amidon and wiped out everything within a 5-kilometer radius, leaving nothing behind but scorched earth, which was followed by a chain of explosions that went off here and there. Boom, 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 boom. It was the scene of the descent of a nightmare. Chapter 158, The Descent of the Nightmare 2. The city gate was smashed along with a wall, leaving behind a pile of rubble. The bodies of the soldiers were either thrown into the air or crushed to death by the pile of shattered rubble on the wall. From memories, Alex came to know that Amidon treated the common people poorly and that all the people of commoner status were at the rear. From the front to the central region of the capital, the place was occupied by the corrupt minister and the nobles who occupied a significant portion of land in the capital. Alex did not hold back and almost destroyed everything behind the walls. The entire capital shook with the earthquake and the weaker houses almost cracked and were destroyed, unable to withstand the earthquake. Angus, who was at the front, tried to flee to hide from such an attack, but he was unable to get out of the range of the attack. The chilling sound of bones clamoring added to the pain that was transmitted to his brain to make him understand that most of his bones had been crushed, which was followed by a subtle pain that started to become unbearable. His body hadn't even touched the ground when he felt a strong blow to his back that stopped his movement and threw him back down. Alex's image appeared behind him and his feet hit Angus' back, and the feeling of having something broken was transmitted throughout his body. Bang! Angus was sent flying in the opposite direction, and this time his body had gone numb due to the intense pain as he flew like a comet and crashed into the brick walls. Angus tried to get up, but everything in front of him went dark, and he kept spitting out blood. Cuck. Arg. Angus stood up and screamed, emitting a powerful coercion all around, sending the pieces of bricks and stones from the wall flying everywhere. But his body was already bruised and most of his bones were crushed, and he couldn't put out his full strength, rather blood gushed out from his mouth. He hadn't even composed himself when he felt a punch to his upper body, and another thunderous explosion was heard, sending him flying several meters back with staggering steps. However, Alex punched him hard and was about to move towards him again. A dark figure appeared and swung his sword towards Alex. Swish! But what he cut off was only an afterimage. It was a pseudo-epic rank character who was able to survive the previous mass destruction attack and found a chance to sneak attack Alex. But he didn't expect Alex to dodge the attack, and not only that, after dodging his attack, Alex's figure also disappeared. Boo! Alex's knee hit his back, and a large hole appeared on his back, revealing torn flesh and broken white bones inside. At the same time, he slammed his other knee into the man's head, and the head exploded like a watermelon and blood gushed out of his head like spring water. Bang! 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 Two more pseudo-epic rankers appeared and tried to attack Alex. Alex remembered that 11 pseudo-epic rankers in Amidon were able to reach the stage through experiments and sacrifices of many. Surrender now. At least you can keep your head, Alex shouted as he saw them coming towards him. You're in no better condition than us. We see that you're on the verge of fainting, one of them said with a large sneer on his face. He was underestimating Alex. Even though my condition is deteriorating, it's still enough to take you down, Alex replied. Without further verbal exchange, two of them appeared before Alex and punched him. Alex saw the powerful punch coming towards his face and moved several meters away, dodging it. They missed the attack, but one of them teleported towards Alex to attack again, while the other would attack from the front before Alex could stabilize himself. Alex swung his elbow back while throwing a kick forward. The pseudo-epic rankers were shocked, and seeing Alex counterattack, they quickly reacted and blocked his attack with their arms, but felt a strong blow and their foot moved back slightly. Alex took this opportunity to pull out his sword and appear before one of them and cut him into two halves, horrifying the other. The other man screamed in terror, but before he could do anything, a crimson beam of energy was shot from Alex's sword that penetrated his chest, making a huge hole in it. Alex sneered and walked towards the direction where he sent Angus flying, but his steps faltered a little and darkness covered his vision for a moment. At that moment, many minion soldiers came running towards him. Alex shook his head to get their attention and was about to make a move, but the soldiers coming towards him were suddenly cut into pieces like a piece of paper. Alex tilted his head towards Ruia, who appeared beside him holding Christina in her arms. Alex nodded gently and ran towards the place where Agnes stood with a miserable look and the soldiers surrounding him trying to protect him. King of Nevin, don't cross the boundary, Angus shouted in panic. No matter the situation, you can't kill the king of the neighboring kingdoms with the permission of the Empire, Angus shouted in panic. Shut up, Alex shouted. Since you can't bear my kindness, you'll have to bear my hatred, Alex shouted. The rest of the soldiers tried to cover Angus, but their legs shook at the sight of Alex's appearance. Get out of here, Alex shouted and swung his sword, killing everyone in his path. Angus turned around trying to flee with staggering steps. However, a slight breeze passed and a hand that was swinging in the air fell to the ground. Noo! A bestial scream echoed in the place while Agnes cried tears of blood. I will not kill you now. You are not worthy of wasting my time, Alex said and kicked him, knocking him unconscious. Raya, take Christina to a healer or a doctor, any professional you can get to treat her. I will look for Catherine. Chapter 159, Catherine's Rescue. Inside the prison that was beneath the basement of the royal palace in the capital of Amadon. In one of the prison's cells, which was small enough to hold a single human, lay a woman who had been handcuffed with chains all over her body. Generally most prisoners did not need to be bound with so many shackles, but she had to suffer such a fate. The smell in the prison was horrible, filled with small insects and mice that could deter any lady and scare her away. No one in the prison cell could guess that the lovely lady rotting in the cell next to them was the queen of the neighboring state. Even after suffering so much, there was the same indifference and coldness when she sat on the throne. With a well-developed body, many thought that this girl might be a seductress who might have sinned by taking someone's life by deceiving them. While everyone was wondering about her circumstance, Catherine was lost in thought, thinking about the welfare of the kingdom. Without me, what could happen to Right? The kingdom I built with my blood and sweat will be destroyed by these brutes, Catherine muttered softly as she hugged her knees and curled up tightly to give herself some warmth in that cold and freezing place. Looking around, she bit her lips as her body constantly trembled due to the chill of the night. A few days ago she was adorned as a queen, but now she was just a miserable prisoner, living under the mercy of the enemy. A self-deprecating smile escaped her lips as she began to think about her past. She was the only daughter of the King of Right. There was no prince or princess by her side except for her parents, and she had no one to rely on. After her birth, her mother had a miscarriage, after which she was unable to bear any more children, and her father refused to take any more concubines. Being a child, many show her unfit to lead a kingdom when her father decided to raise her as a successor and supported her to become queen. Many even showed their disdain and started spreading rumors about her that she was bad luck for Right, as after her birth the king was unable to have any more children. Some even tried to pull strings and cause many unfortunate incidents in her presence to prove that she was an omen of bad luck. They started making plans to seize the throne after her father's death. With traps all around, Catherine tried her best to shut them up, and her efforts did not go unnoticed. She frequently used to have strange dreams that provided her with abundant ideas on how to promote the social structure, and all this changed when she gained recognition from the artifact. After the death of her parents, she used the artifact to crush her enemies. All those kingdoms that tried to use this opportunity to seize the territory were defeated, and Right was even able to snatch some territories from them. The reforms she carried out continued smoothly, easing the status of the common people of Right, and her kingdom was finally able to rise in the levels, but the moment of happiness did not last long. The Emperor of Kinley found out about the artifact and directly sent a force to bring it back, and his refusal proved quite costly. The only way to protect everything she had built was to marry the Emperor's idiot son, Alex, who would soon become King of Nevin, and both territories would merge. Instead of despairing, she thought this was a heaven-sent opportunity. Although Alex was a jerk, he was quite good compared to those debauched and lecherous men. Since Alex was an idiot, the entire administration fell into her hands, and she wanted to unify Nevin and Right, but was met with strong resistance from the nobles of Nevin. Before she could take firm steps, she received news that Amadon was preparing to go to war against them. Gritting her teeth, she decided to let Nevin go for now and strengthen Right's forces to confront Amadon. Alice. Everything turned out fatal. With dazed and saddened eyes, she began to wonder where things went wrong. As Catherine thought about the recent events, the prison cell glowed with a crimson color, and Catherine was shocked by the sudden change. She stood up to look through the small skylights, which was the only space to spy on, and stood on her tiptoes to see what was going on. But before she could take a peek, the prison cell began to shake and she was thrown to the ground. Her head hit the ground as small pieces of dust and debris began to fall from the ceiling. She was covered in pieces of debris, and after a few moments, The tremors shaking the capital finally stopped. She brushed off the dust and debris, wondering what had happened. As she wondered what was going on, she heard a loud noise outside the prison and soon heard the faint sound of footsteps. She raised her head and saw a man drenched in blood walking towards her cell. His eyes were glowing crimson red, giving him the look of a crazy psychopath. For a moment Catherine was scared to see the man standing in front of her cell, and suddenly he slashed, ripped out the cell and smashed it to pieces. "Who are you?" Catherine asked in a frightened voice. "Did someone order you to kill me?" "Don't come near me," Catherine said after gathering all her courage. "Catalina, it's me." "Hey." Catherine heard a familiar but at the same time unfamiliar voice and raised her head to clearly see the man's appearance and frowned slightly. Even before she could speak, the man hugged her and said, "Catherine, I'm Alex. I came to save you." "What?" Catherine almost screamed in disbelief. "You're..." Before Catherine could speak, Alex carried her in his arms like she was a princess and began walking out of the prison. "Don't worry, you're safe now. We've won the war." Catherine wanted to speak further but stopped when she saw Alex's inexplicable excitement. Moreover, Alex's hug gave her mind warmth and comfort. As Alex walked carrying her, she was shocked to see Angus pinned to the prison wall with a sword and missing one arm. Alex carried Catherine to the royal palace's bedroom, where Christina was lying after being treated while Ribaya stood to the side. "Ribaya and Christina," Catherine muttered upon seeing her appearance. "Christina. What happened to her?" Catherine asked with a panicked expression upon seeing Christina's wretched expression. Ribaya gave a small explanation, but before she could finish, Alex pulled Ribaya over and laid her down on the bed while Alex lay next to the unconscious Christina. Catherine struggled to get out of Alex's grip but stopped when she saw Alex's pleading look. "I don't know when I'll wake up, so in the meantime, take care of yourselves," Alex mumbled and passed out. Chapter 160, Warning. The flames of war spread throughout Amadin, affecting all classes of society. With his central power weakening, Mordek had no difficulty in suppressing the opposing forces and conquered all obstacles that came his way. Angus was chained and left in prison to rot until Alex gave some order. When news of the capital's collapse reached everywhere, most of them gave up resisting for fear of its destruction, so Mordek was able to do it quickly and reach the capital much sooner than expected. Upon reaching the capital, he quickly began to work and the soldiers under his command began to manage everything. Catherine, who was forced to sleep by Alex, calmly woke up and took the reins of managing everything. With Ribaya around, any threat was eliminated before they could even bare their fangs. Angus' tyranny came to an end and many people were severely executed. The common people, who had been oppressed for centuries, could finally breathe a sigh of relief under Catherine's rule. Christina's wounds had healed, but they left a scar on her face and all over her body. Although she didn't think much of it, Ribaya and Catherine were worried about her, as they thought what lady could endure something like that. And on top of that, they were very worried about Alex's condition. There was a minor healer in Amadin, but he couldn't cure Alex nor could he identify what was wrong with her. As everyone ran back and forth, on the 8th day of the war, Alex's eyelashes fluttered. Alex tried to open her eyes, but her eyelids didn't even bulge. Her consciousness was still agitated and she felt as if she was still in a dream, but the dream wasn't sweet at all. Ah! Alex sobbed painfully as his ears were pulled from all fronts. "Stinky boy, you dare to hide things from us," the goddess of lust muttered in an angry tone as she pulled Alex's ears. "What do you mean by that? Haven't I hidden anything from you?" Alex shouted with an aggrieved expression. "These old women are so unreasonable. When I need them and ask for help they don't even show their faces to me. But now that they've appeared, the first thing they've done is pull my ears. You dare to lie in front of us. It seems we need to teach you some manners again," the goddess of war spoke, raising her fist causing Alex's entire body to tremble in fear. "Alex, you tricked us. What you did was totally wrong," the goddess of wisdom said with an angry expression. "Are you talking about using a forbidden black magic spell and increasing my strength using demonic energy?" Alex asked. The goddesses nodded. That was the need of the hour, something like the call of nature," Alex said with a raised expression. "Besides, Catherine's life was at stake," Alex tried to explain. "Still, did you forget that things like that disgust us? Even standing here is absolutely disgusting as there's still a trace of that spell floating around," the goddess of fortune spoke. "Tell me, when did you get the devil's eye and did that man even teach you how to use the sword?" the goddess of war spoke, raising her eyebrows. "He taught me before he went to hell," And he also taught me some spells and gave me the power to use the devil's eye, Alex muttered. Everyone was dumbfounded upon hearing Alex's words. Knowing this man, they couldn't accept that this man taught Alex a lot of things without asking for anything from him. Alex realized their thoughts and explained, that was just a part of the agreement we had before. Also, he felt a little guilty for pushing me into the pit. Goddess Rebecca, who was silent the whole time, looked at Alex with an inexplicable expression. Alex, when you used demonic power, did you face any confrontation against holy power? In a normal situation, holy power can purify demonic power, or if demonic power surpasses holy power, one may be cursed. Then how did you handle it? Goddess Rebecca asked. Alex looked at her and another looked at him who was looking at him curiously. When I activated the devil's eye, I cut off the power that had been granted to me and got rid of the holy power. Although I was unable to close it properly, it was enough to allow me to use the demonic power for a short time, Alex explained. Also, I guessed that the function of the system that acts as a barrier and transfer chain between my power and my guesses was correct, as most things became dormant when I used the forbidden spell that didn't cause me much pain. Although you make it sound easy enough, forcibly increasing power not only damages your body but also your soul, Goddess Rebecca spoke with a solemn expression. The devour spell you used is not an ordinary spell. When you take away someone's life essence, you also devour a part of their soul. If the soul is not strong enough to bear the burden, it may be contaminated by other souls and its behavior may be affected a little. If the person had a strong obsession with something, this can be unconsciously imprinted on their soul and slowly one can start to have an obsession like the original owner. Taking too much can change your characteristics and slowly you can start to lose yourself. Hearing Goddess Rebecca's words, Alex was startled for a moment, and his back was already drenched in sweat. He didn't tell me this, Alex muttered with a frown. HMPH, not everyone is a good master like me, the goddess of war snorted. Seeing Alex's worried look, the goddess chuckled. You don't have to worry about it. The strength of your soul is too much for others to affect you, Goddess Rebecca said. Alex sighed in relief and thought that devour is a terrifying spell. Perhaps many get lost and become maniacs using forbidden spells for this reason. Ha ha ha. Chapter 161. Alex panted heavily trying to breathe as he felt a bit of uneasiness. His throat felt dry and he tried to open his lips that felt like they were stuck together like glue. His eyelids felt heavy as he tried to lift them to see where he was and what was going on. Alex looked around blankly, almost as if he had woken up after a long sleep. The blurry vision was blinding him and causing him pain. He could feel the exhaustion eroding his entire body, and a single movement of his muscles brought an avalanche of pain. He felt as if his body was tearing apart. In fact, he wasn't able to lift even a single finger, which made him realize how powerless he had become. That bastard of a devil, the devil isn't bad. My foot is. When the devil taught him black magic and forbidden spells, he clearly said that the repercussions and consequences wouldn't be great and would only take a toll on him. But the pain was unbearable. He lied about it. I shouldn't believe him. The mythological description of him was true, Alex muttered. His vision was still blurry, making it difficult for him to see his surroundings. System, why is my body in a pathetic state? Since I have a blessing from the goddess and a higher healing rate, should my body be fine by now? Host, the blessings are blocked for now. There's still demonic energy left in your body. If the blessings started working now, they would cause more harm instead of providing you with benefits. I see, then I have to stay in bed like a patient for a few days. It seems so, host. You should take advantage of this rare opportunity to get some rest. Besides, with godly wives by your side, it seems like the gains from the risk you've taken are too good, eh? What do you mean by that? Alex asked but didn't get any response. After lying down for a while, his vision started to recover and his sight began to clear. Although his vision was still blurry, it was better than nothing. The way things happened, Alex even thought for a moment that the constant use of devil eye might one day blind his vision, so he needed to be careful in the future. Alex simply closed his eyes, wanting to have a clear head. Resting from time to time wasn't a bad thing. He still feels tiredness all over his body. Alex didn't know how much time had passed, but he woke up as he felt a soft and delicate touch. Alex's eyebrows furrowed and before he could open his eyes, a chill ran through his entire body as he felt a gentle touch of a hand caressing his body. Alex took a look and saw Raya unbuttoning her upper clothes. Raya, what are you doing? Alex muttered to himself with sweat all over his body. Raya, oblivious to Alex's idea, continued with her work while humming a song. Why is he so happy while undressing me? No, don't tell me Riya is going to take advantage. No, my sweet and innocent Riya is not that kind of girl. Alex's thoughts ran wild as Riya had almost stripped Alex, leaving his pants behind. But contrary to Alex's thoughts, Riya took out a water-soaked towel and started cleaning Alex's body. Alex sighed in relief as he saw Riya hard at work. Sniff, sniff. Riya, you're the best. Alex gave a thumbs up, though his face turned red from embarrassment. Click. Alex heard a loud clang as the door opened. He opened his eyelid to take a look and saw Catherine approaching him with a bowl in her hand. What is he doing here? Riya dressed me. Alex wanted to scream after feeling Catherine's gaze. Moreover, seeing the bowl of soup in Catherine's hand and Riya's behavior, he felt as if these two had already made Emmett their playground. Have they already patched things up? Catalina, tell me, isn't our husband's body the best? Riya said in a flirtatious tone as she observed Alex's body. Catherine heard Riya's words and stared at her, though the red tint on her ears could be seen, and there was a slight blush on her face as she looked at Alex. Riya, stop doing such things. Dress him quickly or he'll catch a cold, Catherine said in a cold tone. We have such a pious husband and all of you girls don't care, Riya said weakly with a pout. What did you say? Catherine asked with a piercing look. Nothing. Riya addressed Alex and Catherine took a seat and sat beside her. She frowned as she looked at Alex's face, which was red as a tomato. Riya, you see that because of your carelessness Alex has caught a fever. His face has turned red from the fever, Catherine complained and put her hand on Alex's forehead and raised her eyebrows. What are you letting me see? Riya spoke with a panicked expression. No, let me take care of him. You go take care of those fools, Catherine said and pushed Riya out of the room. Catherine looked at Alex, who seemed to be fast asleep, and watched him. I don't know why I always feel a sense of familiarity around you, as if we've met before and know each other very well, Catherine said as she took a spoonful of soup and blew the air into it to cool it down a bit. I heard others talk about your adventures. They also told me that you rushed here to save me. I couldn't really believe what they were saying. But after seeing you that day, I can tell that you are a very capable person. Catherine, after cooling the spoonful of soup, brought it to Alex's lips and said, you were an idiot before and I thought of Nevin as an opportunity to strengthen right and take it to a higher level, but now that you've recovered, I don't know how to handle things. Then, my husband Alex, since you're awake, why don't you answer some of my questions? Catherine said with a smile, surprising Alex. Chapter 162, Awakening 2. Alex's heart raced upon hearing Catherine's words and beads of sweat began to fall from his forehead. How did she know? Alex pondered for a moment. Alex, you can stop acting, Catherine said in a stern voice. Of course, she's not the daughter of the goddess of wisdom for nothing. Alex slowly opened his eyes and saw Catherine's expression that held a mix of worry and anger. Alex gulped and opened his dry lips to speak. When Alex opened his lips, he struggled to speak and a hoarse voice came out. Although it was a muffled sound, it was clear and audible. Alex looked at Catherine's gaze with a bitter smile on his face. I just woke up when Riya started cleaning me, Alex muttered, and before he could say anything else, Catherine shoved the spoon into his mouth. Gulp. Alex took a sip and felt his dry throat had been revitalized, although there was still a burning sensation. So, you were eavesdropping? Catherine asked, raising her eyebrows. Alex shook his head in denial. I swear I didn't hear anything. I just woke up today. By the way, how did you know I was awake? Alex asked. When I touched your head, your eyebrows furrowed and your expression changed a little, and since there was no fever, I assumed so. So, how many days are you going to pretend like this? Catherine asked. Alex stared at Catherine's face for a moment. Different kinds of emotions appeared in her eyes. Her face was almost similar to Ava's except for some facial differences. I don't know. I can't move my body for now. It'll take me a while to recover. As far as I knew, it hadn't been a year since you started and you had already reached the rank of master, but still this wasn't enough to defeat so many enemies. After listening to Riya's narrations, I'm sure that the last attack that shook all of Amidon was your doing. And there's no way a master rank could do something like that, so, you must have used something to forcibly increase your strength and are now suffering a backlash because of it, Catherine said as she tried to discern the situation. Alex, thank you for all of this. I appreciate your help. Without you, Wright might have been crushed into dust by Amidon, Catherine said, expressing her gratitude. Okay, it's my job, Alex said. Now tell me about the current situation. Catherine nodded and explained to Alex. With Ria's help, Catalina first took care of the nobles and separated them into good and bad. Although most of them were corrupt and evil, there were still some people who disliked Angus' tyranny and raised their voices against him, but all of them were suppressed by Angus. Mordek along with Ben already took care of the rebels who tried to create public unrest by dealing with them harshly. Still, Alex, you did a good job of not killing Angus. If you had killed him, we would be in trouble, huh? Why? Alex asked in a state of surprise. In Kinley, there is a rule: although we can wage war against other kingdoms and fight for territories, we cannot conquer an entire neighboring kingdom at once, and killing the king of the neighboring kingdom without the consent of the empire can be considered a sin. Wasn't it Amadon who started first? Alex asked. Didn't you see that Amadon had taken me hostage and placed an impostor of mine on the throne? It had been planned to make the entire rite slowly and steadily collapse and gradually integrate with Amadon. In order to acquire the kingdom, one must obtain the consent of the empire. And Angus knew that, which is why he didn't kill me and also never planned to touch you for now. Alex, as far as I know, the emperor's stance on you is neutral. You may have heard the rumors that the emperor couldn't tolerate your stupidity any longer and kicked you out, but I don't think that was the case. I'm 100% sure that the protectors are hiding in the shadows and they will surely take action if you are to die. Alex stared at the ceiling without understanding Catherine's words. Alex couldn't even recall the image of his father. But if someone asked him if he hates him, Alex would deny it. He never hated that man. In a way, she had already given him a golden spoon, and in a way she took care of his safety by throwing him out of the palace. He was sure that if he had remained in Basilic in the palace, someone might kill him and he wouldn't know when he died. Besides, technically wasn't his father the so-called sugar daddy who made such beautiful women into his wives? Technically, any man would go crazy thinking about that. Putting the others aside, Ria is alone enough for him to be able to lead such a good life, full of happiness and bliss. After thinking about it for a moment, Alex wondered whether he should tell Catherine or not. Catherine, when I raised my power, I felt some of the presences watching the battle. Some of them might be from the Emperor's side, but I don't know about the others. We must be careful from now on. Every step we take might be full of traps, Alex said. Catherine nodded upon hearing Alex's words and said, I don't know where you learned those forbidden arts from and I won't ask about it either, but please refrain from using such things in the future. I don't know what will happen in the future, but for now our relationship is mutually beneficial. My survival depends solely on you. If anything happens to you, our lives will be in danger. Unlike Yvonne, who has strong support, we have nothing of the sort. With your death, countless wolves might flock to us. Alex's expression turned solemn upon hearing her words. Don't worry, as long as I'm alive, I will protect you. It's my duty as your husband, Alex said as he smiled mischievously. Save it for Ria. Catherine gave him a cold look. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 163, Benevolent King. For the first time, Alex felt proud of himself for having controlled his impulse to kill Angus, otherwise the situation might have gotten out of hand. Alex after 3 more days was able to walk. Catherine had not started the integration process and was waiting for instructions from the Empire. In case they had missed it, Catherine had already sent a letter to Kinley. Currently, Longard was in charge of Amadon, Longard was in charge of Wright, and Hamilton was in charge of Nevin. Meanwhile, every time he looked at Christina he felt as if his heart was being squeezed from within. Seeing the scars on her face, he blamed himself for everything. After waking up the first thing he did was cast a healing spell on Christina, but Alex still couldn't make any headway with his healing spell for now. It needed a few more days to reach its peak. On the terrace of the royal castle of Amadon, Alex stood beside Christina with a solemn expression. Christina, please forgive me. It was because I was hasty in attacking that ruined your face. Not only did you protect me, but you also saved my life by sacrificing your own. Thank you, Alex said with teary eyes. Christina looked at Alex's sad expression. She could feel Alex's sincerity in her words. Does having scars on my face make me look ugly? Christina asked. No, I didn't mean that. You are and always will be beautiful in my eyes. The scar didn't ruin your face or make you look ugly, you're still as beautiful as ever, Alex said, taking Christina's hand and squeezing it slightly. Since I'm as beautiful as ever, what's the problem with having a scar on my face for now? I can wait until you recover enough. Even if you can't heal the scars on my face, I don't have a problem with it. It's not like I care too much about looking good. Having scars would also help me keep those perverts away. I was just afraid that you'd find me ugly, Christina said in a weak voice. Christina, you're a very good woman. Sniff. Sniff. Christina rolled her eyes at Alex overacting and spoke up, trying to change the subject. Alex, when are you going to interrogate them? I was hoping you'd start with them. Besides, leaving them to rot in prison cells would break their morals. Alex wiped away her fake tears and her expression turned serious. We need to get to the bottom of this. Producing a pseudo-epic rank through immoral means. Amidon spared no effort to make himself stronger. Also, we need to find the person backing them. Did you find anything or any clues that could lead them to the perpetrator? Alex asked. Christina shook her head and said, no, most of them didn't even know anything about the experiments. The only one who might know would be the king. When I interrogated the noble, he also said that the second in command was the prime minister, and after searching for a while I couldn't find him. Alex frowned upon hearing her words. Since when did he disappear? Did he notice my attack and escape without making a sound? No, I'm told that he hasn't been seen for a while. It's possible that he escaped after receiving the news of Amidon's defeat at the front. Alex rubbed his shoulder as he thought about it carefully. Alex wondered if the Prime Minister predicted this or if it was a meticulous calculation on his part. There was also the possibility that he would contact whoever might be pulling the strings and think of a plan to take us down. Christina, you should talk to Angus. In the filthy prison that was filled with nobles, whom Catherine had deemed sinners after investigating them. Alex sat across from them with a scheming smile. So, my friend, how are you all? Alex asked. Your Majesty, we don't know anything, we are innocent. Please let us go. Alex looked at the people who were shouting at the top of their lungs. I'll give you a chance. You will reveal all the misdeeds you have committed in your life. Be it scamming, killing slaves, drug dealing, or doing any dirty work. I promise I will spare your life, Alex said with a serious expression. The entire place fell silent upon hearing Alex's words and everyone pondered for a moment. Yes, those of you who think you're innocent, raise your hands. I'll move you to another cell. We shouldn't put good, civilized people with dirty bastards, right? Alex smiled. There were 29 people gathered in the room, 11 of whom raised their hands with a haughty look filled with pride and arrogance. Alex didn't say anything else and asked the guards to take them away while asking Ben to take note of the things. Alex moved inside the room where these 11 people were. Look, I gave you a chance to redeem yourself, but you still think you're in a position to claim your innocence? Ha. What joke? Alex laughed. The nobles frowned upon hearing Alex's words and pleaded. Your Majesty, we are being set up. A benevolent king should not ignore our pleas. Please have mercy on a poor soul like us. Thank you for reminding me that I am a benevolent ruler, Alex said as he pulled out a sword. The nobles shuddered upon seeing Alex's gaze. Alex threw the sword to the ground and raised his finger and said, I will spare one life. It is the survival of the fittest. After I return, whoever can survive by killing the others will live, and yes, by the time I return, if there is more than one person alive, I will execute all of them. Alex spoke with a large smile on his face and walked out. In a corner of the prison, a cell that reeked of blood and inside which a man was chained was nailed to the wall. Alex looked at the man who had aged greatly in just a few days. He looked gaunt and his face was pale as a sheet of paper. The soldiers behind Alex sat down on a chair and went to stand guard outside upon receiving his signal. Should I just do some soul searching and get this over with? Alex thought but shook his head. Soul searching can destroy your brain circuitry and something could go wrong if the Empire asks Alex to let him go. Alex crossed his legs as he sat on the seat looking at Angus. King of Amidon, how have you been? Did you like the treatment you received being imprisoned in your own home? Alex said with a sinister smile. Angus heard Alex's voice and looked at him with bloodshot eyes. He seemed to be trying hard to keep anger from taking over his rationality. He knew that even though he was in a bad situation, his life was not in danger. As long as he kept himself under control, he could at least get out of there alive. There's no need to mock me like that. I know this kind of game better than you do, boy. Get straight to the point. I see you're good at making jokes, Alex said with a slight smile, but his expression suddenly changed, and he moved his face towards Angus and looked at him with eyes full of cruelty. But tell me, Angus, was it you who was playing the card, or were you being played? So, tell me, which of the two is it? Chapter 164, I'll give you a gift. Angus looked at Alex with a terrible expression. Alex could feel that Angus wanted to tear him apart. You're quite good at joking, King of Nevin. I built Amidin with my own hands and achieved everything using my strength. Alex looked at the man bragging shamelessly. You're telling me that you've experimented on people and raised their ranks. You use forbidden techniques to burn life force to increase strength, and use level 6 magic runes to create barriers to stop attacks. You've done all of these things by yourself. Are you taking me for a fool? You're nothing more than a parasite who got here thanks to the help of others, Alex said in a mocking tone. Angus didn't know how to refute Alex. He was shocked to hear Alex's words and wondered how Alex knew about the experiments and the grades of the magic runes. He was sure that someone had leaked some information or betrayed him. Now I understand how you were able to defeat me and take us down. Someone might have already gone over to your side. Wow. What kind of nonsense is this man talking about now? Yeah, so what? Why don't you show your big heart and give him some information? Do you think that person will save you after knowing your situation? Rather than suffering yourself, shouldn't you just throw him into the mud? Alex smiled. Angus's eyes widened upon hearing Alex's proposal. It wasn't wrong to say that he held no grudge towards the man who had started all of this. He decided to act as a pawn so that he could gain something from this war, but since he was already falling, why should he be the only one to suffer the loss and die alone? He should try to drag the other party down if possible, but he had signed a binding contract, so he can't reveal the name. Alex noticed the slight change in Angus' facial expression. Angus had killed his brothers and father to ascend the throne. He hadn't taken a queen or a concubine and was simply a free-spirited individual. Many women he had spent the night with had died. In a way, he had no relationship that Alex could use to threaten him, and there were no cards that Alex could use to bring him down. Torturing him would prove to be useless and could lead to an early death, giving Alex a huge headache. The Empire's politics were quite chaotic. Who knows, there might be a noble behind her who would try every means to bring him down. And there would be no less wolves that might be stalking their wives. Ridia had already warned that many might seek trouble to seize their wives, so there might be a chance that someone like that would play tricks on them, as Angus wanted to use Catherine as a bargaining chip. In order to get something out of Angus, the only thing Alex could do now was to add fuel to the fire of his ego and arrogance, which did not allow him to die easily. Ha 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 ha. After pondering for a moment, Angus burst into laughter. I like your proposal. You sure know how to use human nature and desires. Just a mere blink of words and you made me tempted to bare my fangs at the other. Your strength has impressed me, so I will just add a small hint. There is no kingdom involved in this. I mean, no kingdom instigated this war. It was a person with great influence. There was also a group involved in it. I don't know if that person has any ties to the group. That person seemed to have some animosity towards you, although he did not kill you but asked me to take care of you. Which group or who is the person? Alex asked curiously. That is for you to find out. What about Catherine? I heard that you were going to sell her. That person just asked me to catch any of your wives. I caught Catherine because I could use this opportunity to my advantage. Who knows, that person might be attracted by her beauty. If it hadn't been for your warning, I would have attacked Catherine myself. Alex's eyes turned bloodshot upon hearing his words, but he tried to calm himself down because he knew that this guy was provoking him. Alex gritted his teeth in rage as he thought of that person. He was sure that Angus was messing with him. In the first place, about a person's clue, isn't the world full of people? Does he want me to search for every single person? What kind of idiotic insinuation is that? Alex muttered to himself and tried to calm himself down and think carefully. Either Angus was trying to mess with him or there was a way to use the clue. Before that, tell me about the experiment that helps you produce the epic rank. Was it that group? No, it wasn't that group. It was someone else, Angus replied. Alex's eyes flashed cruelly upon hearing this. He already had a clue about it. Brilliant, that jerk might be a part of this too. But that man might have already started the cleanup after learning about Amidin's downfall. I should look for an opportunity and pay Bright a visit. But more than that, Alex was more worried about the person pulling the strings. Angus' hint was rather vague and absurd. If it was some kind of group, Alex was sure he wouldn't be able to find out because there are hundreds of secret groups in the shadows. But if it was a person, Alex could make some guesses about it. There are chances that the man is royalty, and there are even some chances that the prince is a part of this plan. Was there a chance that it was the third prince who wanted to snatch Raya away? Alex shook his head, denying that possibility. He shouldn't be hasty. Pointing swords without any solid proof was just asking for more trouble. By the way, your prime minister. What was his name? Yes, Lamar. Did that bastard know about all your criminal records and shady dealings? He was already on the run even before the fall of Amidon, Alex said. What? Angus shouted, which scared Alex. Angus' expression suddenly changed, and seeing Angus' face turn green with anger, even he was very confused. The rottenness and resentment on his face really were out of his expectation for him. That shameless bastard must have betrayed me. He's a bastard and a scoundrel. He sure took the opportunity to run away when I was busy. I always had the feeling that he was a troublesome guy, but he was so perfect at his job that I couldn't doubt him. He knew some of the plans, and who knows how many setbacks he might have. Angus cursed at the top of his lungs. Angus was so furious that his breathing became labored. So, the bottom line is that even you don't know. In a way, that man escaped right under your nose. Alex chuckled as he saw Angus' expression. Alex didn't know if Angus was acting or he was actually betrayed by that shameless Lamar. But if it was all an act, then this man deserves an Oscar award for his brilliant performance, and if it's fake, then Alex was sure of one thing. He had embarked on a hunt for some chain villains who were waiting for him to slowly come for them. One villain leads to another. Trap after trap, Alex said with a dejected expression, and stood up from his seat. Alex patted the headmaster and said, "Hey, take good care of him and feed him good food. If anything happens to him, the Empire will kick my ass. No matter what happens, take good care of him, and also wrap his entire body in anti-mana chains. After all, you're not going to have a simple death. There's no way you can die easily like this after trying to kidnap my wife and destroy Christina's face. I'll make sure you regret your death until the last moment." After having a nice and pleasant chat with Angus that had angered him a little, Alex arrived at a place where the nobles were after coughing up all of his deeds. "Take them to the cell for now. I'll judge them after seeing all the crimes they committed." Watching them obediently leave, Alex muttered, "Ben, if you find any of them committing slavery or participating in it, or if they've committed any heinous crimes, just get rid of them." He nodded. "And what about the others?" Ben asked. "Let's see the person who managed to survive." The soldiers guarding the room opened the door. As soon as Alex entered, the putrid smell of flesh and blood assaulted his nostrils. The entire room was stained with blood. Dead bodies lay here and there. Some of them weren't even in one piece, and others were completely disfigured beyond recognition. Alex looked to the side to see the man riddled with wounds resting in the corner. His body was drenched in blood as if it had come out of a pool of blood. "I have already done what you asked me to do. Now, please give me my freedom. I want to live," the man said in a trembling voice. "Ben, what is his name?" "This is Count Hellas." "Count Helix, what a tremendous will to live you have," Alex said as he walked towards him. "You are a scum and a disgusting person who killed your colleague. I don't hate you, rather I have a soft spot for a dirty bastard like you. After all, you are the ones who help us keep our hands clean." Count Helix frowned after seeing Alex's sinister smile and trembled in fear. He shrank back and began to crawl towards the corner. In his eyes, Alex looked like a demon who wanted to cruelly kill him. "Your Majesty, you cannot break your promise. You cannot kill me. You promised to grant freedom to whoever could kill another," Helix shouted. His screams echoed throughout the room, sending goosebumps down even the soldiers guarding the entrance. "I am not killing you, rather I am rewarding you with a gift, the slave's mark. From now on your soul will be mine." Alex bit his finger and drew a magic circle on the man's head with his blood. Ben shook his head at Alex's cruel means and spoke softly, "Long live the Bandit King." Chapter 165, The Little Princess. As Alex was overseeing things in the prison displaying the true meaning of benevolence, the soldiers who had been assigned to guard the walls were suddenly startled upon seeing an unwelcome visitor coming towards them. The soldiers guarding the place frowned and their facial expressions suddenly changed. One of the soldiers quickly shouted to warn General Mordek as they prepared for the fight and took up their position. Away from the city wall, under the blue sky and the bright rays of the sun, numerous elongated silver flags were shining. The flags fluttered in the breeze with overwhelming majesty and looked like a silver fish dancing madly. The ground began to tremble violently and the earth began to rumble as numerous horsemen appeared and the horses' footsteps pounded the ground in a rhythmic motion. The silver-armored cavalry charged towards the city wall like a tidal wave. From what the soldiers could see, there were around 1,000 soldiers and around 400 cavalrymen were holding the front of the formation by guarding a carriage in the middle. They were perfectly trained and their march was perfectly organized. It seemed like those 1,000 soldiers could single-handedly take on 5 times the number of enemies. The soldiers began to sweat because the city walls were already destroyed, which was quite disadvantageous from a defensive standpoint. Furthermore, these people were able to break through the borders and reach the capital without any news that would horrify them. Under the command of their superior, the archers drew their bows aiming towards the approaching waves of cavalry. They were confused at what to do when a loud shout reached their ears. "Fools, drop your weapons, don't attack them. Line up in front and salute them." Mordek appeared on the scene and shouted at the top of his lungs. His chest rose and fell as he began to curse. "The flag belongs to the Kinley Empire and they are Kinley's soldiers. Any disrespect towards them means challenging the authority of the Empire itself." Mordek's deed snapped them out of their thoughts and they dropped their weapons immediately with a frightened look. Their hands trembled thinking of the scenario that would have happened if they had taken out their bows. Mordek wiped the sweat from his forehead and appeared in front. The cavalry stopped their march and a man stepped out from the group. "Don't be afraid, we are not here for war. I am Josh, the envoy of the Kinley Empire. I have brought the decree of the Empire," Josh shouted. Mordek followed by the soldiers bowed their heads giving them a salute. "Mr. Josh, I am General Mordek. Nice to meet you, Mr. Josh, I will take you to the king. Please follow me," Mordek said respectfully. Josh nodded and asked the people to follow him. Mordek, who was going to lead them, looked back with a surprised expression. A huge carriage, pulled by 5 horses side by side, slowly stopped and separated from the crowd. The carriage was gigantic and was 10 meters long and was supported by huge wooden wheels. The carriage was beautifully decorated and had various floral patterns engraved on it, giving it a childish appearance. What surprised me the most was the knight in shining armor whose strength was quite fearsome. The legendary rank guardian. Mordek's breathing stopped for a moment at the sight, and if his guess was correct then surely a member of the high-class society would be present at it. But the problem was that he didn't know if it was an enemy or a friend, which horrified him. Just one misstep and everything could come to an end. Mordek didn't stare at him for too long or his head might be left hanging somewhere and he would resume his march towards Amidon. Inside the royal castle, Alex's mind was working at overdrive as soon as he received the message that the Empire's envoys had arrived at Amidon. It would be fine if there was a small group coming here, but what came here was an army, making him afraid that they might come here and ask him to return. Alex even wondered if it was the person who pulled the rope from behind who made the move. Alex, accompanied by his 3 wives, stood before the massive castle gates welcoming the envoy. Josh jumped off the horse and hadn't even taken a step forward when his gaze fell on the man leading 3 women. He knew all too well about the 3 but upon seeing the boy he was stunned. With an awkward expression, he spoke in a respectful tone. "Greetings to the young prince." Cough. Cough. "Greetings to the king of Nevin." Alex looked at the man who was rather awkward greeting him and thought he seemed like a nice man. "Mr. Josh, welcome to Amidon. Although we haven't settled here yet, we will do our best to serve you. May our hospitality be to your liking," Alex said as he shook hands with Josh. Josh returned Alex's greeting and gently nodded towards Catherine and Rydia, but frowned upon seeing Christina. "Madam Christina, if we knew about your situation, I would make sure to bring a healer to treat you. Thank you for your concern, Mr. Josh," Christina said in a polite tone. Alex exchanged some pleasantries and looked at the huge carriage stopping before the gates as he wondered what trouble was going to arise from there. The carriage door opened. The next moment, a faint and soft voice sounded filled with gentleness. "Big brother Alex." Alex looked at the petite figure of a girl who seemed to be slightly younger than him and had golden hair with golden eyes and her facial features were quite similar to his. While Alex was surprised upon seeing her, Rydia's eyes lit up for some reason and she couldn't help but speak in a gentle tone. "Princess Alice, big sister Rydia, how are you?" Alice said and jumped into Rydia's embrace leaving Alex with his jaw dropped to the floor. "What the fuck is going on here? Please someone tell me otherwise my brain will short circuit." Chapter 166, The Emperor's Decree. Alex stared at Rydia hugging the little girl with a warm expression, as if she had reunited with her long-lost sister after a long time. Alice even forgot her image of the princess and blended in with Rydia. Alex turned his gaze towards Catherine and Christina with a questioning look. but they simply looked away from him with an expression that said that, "Don't drag us into this. It's your business." Alex already began to know her identity after Ruaya shouted, but that worried him more. If she was his sister and was a member of the royal family, then what was she doing here? And was she even allowed to meet him, who had been chased out of his house? And besides, how can that old man allow a member of the royal family to come here to meet the disowned prince? After hugging each other to exhaustion, the girl named Alice, Alex's supposed sister, separated from Ruaya and looked at Alex with a lovely expression. "Ahem, I'm sorry, I forgot the courtesy for meeting my best friend." Alice walked up to Alex and held the hem of her long skirt as she gently bowed her head and spoke in a respectful tone. "It's a pleasure to meet you, King of Nevin, Big Brother Alex." Alex felt a tingling sensation upon hearing the word Big Brother and bowed her head and greeted her politely. Although he felt a little awkward, he tried his best not to show it on his face. Alice made a pouty expression upon seeing Alex behaving like a stranger, and walking up to him she raised her hand and asked Alex to accompany her. Alex nodded and took her hand as he led her into the castle. "Big Brother, I see you've recovered. Did you remember anything about me?" Alice asked with her big pearl-like eyes. Alex wanted to look away, but seeing those adorable and tender puppy-like eyes on the girl was difficult for him. "Princess Alice, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't remember much of the past. I only have a vague memory of who I was, but nothing more than that." "I see." Alice spoke with a dejected expression, but it didn't last long, and after pondering for a moment her expression brightened. "You don't have to be sad. We can make new memories as long as we're together. As I am the youngest daughter in the family, I was often left alone and would sneak into your palace and play all day long. Big sister Ruaya would take care of us and play with us. Those days were very fruitful. So I've been playing with everything in my life. I used to play with you girls, and now I'm playing with my own life and with some people as well. Haha. Some things never change." Alex sighed as he saw Alice sticking close to him while gripping her hands tightly. "Why is she so close to me? Is it a facade to make me lower my guard? Shouldn't people in high society find me unpleasant? How can she have had such a warm attitude towards me since before?" Countless thoughts occurred to Alex. He was dealing with a member of the royal family who might be very good at plotting and scheming. So, Alex couldn't help but doubt everything until Ruaya gave him a rough rundown of their relationship. Alex entered the throne room and sat on the throne while everyone except Ruaya took a seat. Alex wanted her to take a seat, but she refused to do so in front of the envoys just in case they considered it disrespectful. Fortunately, Alice was kind enough to pull her over and sit beside her, and no one was brave enough to offend her. Josh looked at Alex and opened a scroll. "Your Majesty, this is the royal decree. I am announcing the Emperor's decree. The King of Amidon had not only overstepped rights borders, but had also attempted to create a situation of chaos that could spread to the entire empire. Minor wars are not forbidden, but Amidon's act of attempting to take over an entire kingdom cannot be forgiven, as it may cause others to assume that they can wage wars per their wishes and will. Since Riot and Nevin were victims here and retaliated because of Amidon, their act of occupying Amidon would be forgiven." Alex and the others sighed in relief upon hearing the words. "However, their act of aggression of occupying Amidon cannot be ignored, which may cause some friction in the future, but you will not be entitled to any punishment, but rather a 5% tax increase, and your state will have to hand over a sum of 1 million gold coins within the stipulated time of 3 years. You will be able to start integrating Amidon, Riot, and Nevin into one kingdom as soon as possible." Following Josh's announcement, the entire place fell silent. Although they have been able to ignore the worst-case scenario, the sum of money collected in taxes would surely cause a headache. Mr. Josh, are there any orders regarding King Angus? How should we deal with him? Alex asked. King Alex, there are still more things, Josh said in an embarrassed tone. You are requested to hand over King Angus to the Empire. We will deal with him. Since he has violated certain conditions, he may be punished for the crime. Alex massaged his forehead, thinking that it was good not to overdo it with Angus, otherwise he would be in trouble if Angus died. King Alex. This is the most important message. You should have been crowned king, but since you were in a coma, you had not gone through the official coronation ceremony. Without the coronation ceremony, you are still considered an unofficial king. That is why you are asked to head to the capital in a month's time, where your coronation ceremony will be held. And in the meantime, you can think about changing the name of the new kingdom or leaving it as is. Chapter 167, Twisted Thoughts. The contents of the Emperor's decree brought relief to Alex's worries, but the latter was a headache for him. Every time a new king ascends to a kingdom, a coronation legion is sent from the empire that will crown the king. But in his case, he was called directly to the empire. It's not like entering Zenith, capital, and Kinley is like asking for beatings all around. It wasn't about his strength, he just needed to make others strong as well. Meanwhile, although Alex had fully recovered in the presence of these unwanted guests, Alex was unable to heal Christina and could only make her suffer. Casting a high-grade healing spell may arouse too much suspicion, and he didn't know if these would be his friends or enemies. Although Josh seemed friendly at first glance, who knows if he turned out to be a traitor. Rhea was busy with Alice as she asked her to tell her about the things that happened after we left Zenith and wanted to hear Alex's stories after parting ways with her. Christina was busy thinking about the division of the army along with the Mordek, while Catherine accompanied Alex to chat. Alex liked Catherine when it came to political discussion. And having two heads is better, and Catherine was the one who was going to run the kingdom in her absence. "Catherine, tell me, what do you think about the situation?" Alex asked. "Everything is going so well that it seems unnatural," Catherine replied as she looked at Alex with a solemn expression. "I'm worried about Princess Alice. She seems a little playful and immature on the surface, but she knows how to act according to the situation," Alex said, rubbing his chin. "And the power of her guardians worried me. If anything bad happens this time, we will die helplessly." "How much do you know about her?" Alex asked. Catherine leaned back on the couch as she rested her cheek on her palm and began to recall bits and pieces of Alice. "Alex, do you remember the day we were joined together through the ritual? I mean, the day we got married?" Alex shook his head. He didn't even remember the faces of his wives or anyone from his family, and she was asking about the event. "Alex, the ritual took place in the church and was led by the Pope himself. In the ritual, on your part, only Alice and the first princess were present along with the Emperor." Alex raised his eyebrows upon hearing about the first princess and now wondered what kind of relationship she had with him. "I hope there's no hostility between us," but what surprised him was that none of his siblings were present at the scene. "I heard from Rhea that Alice treats you very well and cares for you a lot, though I didn't know much about the first princess who had a distant and cold personality." Alex nodded and continued to listen to Catherine's words as he pondered them. "I know you're tired of her, but still, you should at least try to do your best to build a relationship with her, and also try to at least conceal your hostility. Princess Alice may be saddened by your behavior. You should know by now that blood is thicker than water. All of our situations may be pretty bad and we may have been forced to marry you, but that doesn't mean we don't sympathize with you. Unlike you, we've all been loved by our families and at least have someone to rely on before we fall. For being an idiot, you've been scrutinized and criticized by society, even though it wasn't your fault to begin with. I don't know if you remembered things or if you're trying to bury them out of fear of being hurt. The torment you've been through is not something that can be endured. Even though we found it difficult to accept you as a husband before, that doesn't mean we hate you. Even though you've been disinherited, that doesn't mean you don't have a family. Besides, the reason why you were disinherited has already been resolved. Therefore, I think you should take the opportunity to forge a cordial relationship with Alice and the others. I'm not telling you to actively look for them, but you should at least try to improve your relationship with those who are looking for you. I know you're in a position where you can't trust anyone and many wolves may already be interested in using you, but I know you're smart enough to recognize the wolf in sheep's clothing." Alex listened to Catherine's advice and felt as if a heavy weight had been lifted from his heart. He stood up and walked towards Catherine, gently hugging her, startling her. "Thank you, Catherine. Your words really meant a lot." Catherine, who was trying to break free, stopped at Alex's warm words. "I'll try to sort things out. Before that, we should start taking care of this whole mess," Alex said with a sigh. "Though it might not seem like we're in a really bad situation. Integrating 3 kingdoms into one isn't as easy as it seems. Wright and Nevin could easily become one before, but on top of that, Amidon, which is in stark contrast to the other 2, requires armed forces. Also, there's a huge loss of personnel in the war, as well as resources. Your Nevin side is in top condition," Alex said. "Your troop loss was minimal, and I heard that you revolutionized the entire battlefield and wreaked havoc all by yourself," Catherine said as she looked at Alex's expression. Killing so many people might have been a burden on him. Catherine knew that Alex wasn't the kind of person who would kill for no reason, but the situation forced him to do so. Plus, she knew that Alex wanted to rescue her as soon as possible, and Alex was saddened by her absence, which touched her a little. Oblivious to Catherine's thoughts, Alex thought she was trying to appreciate him and rubbed his nose with a proud look. "You know your husband is great. If you want I can even move an entire mountain and bring stars from the sky, blah." Catherine snorted, and the small respect that had been aroused in her heart for Alex was completely lost. If Alex had known that the amount of affection points he had gained in a few days had decreased due to her casual words, he would have coughed up some blood. Alex stood in front of the door with an uneasy expression. "It's really hot today, isn't it?" Alex asked, but looked around and saw that there was no one around him. He was standing in front of Alice's room where she was staying, currently accompanied by Raya. Alex felt like he could kill many without batting an eyelid, but when it came to conversing with a stranger who was somehow related to him, he started to feel uneasy. Maybe it was a trauma or a mental burden left by his older self, who was ignored since birth. Alex was about to knock on the door when he heard the sound of laughter from inside. Although Alex knew that he should give them some privacy, Alex's heart was not able to calm down and take a look. "This is all to get to know the opponent and gain useful information," Alex muttered, trying to reason with himself, and shook the guilt from his heart. Alex put his ears to the wall and channeled his mana to increase his hearing power, and was soon able to hear the conversation inside. "Big sister Raya tells me the truth. Does my brother bully you, think you're a servant, and treat you badly?" "No, your big brother is kind to me. He cares about me a lot. My lord doesn't allow anyone to look down on me and takes strict measures against anyone who looks down on me." "Elder sister, why do you keep calling him my lord? Isn't he already your husband? Just call him husband, or if you can, call him sweetheart." Raya blushed a little and her face turned red as a tomato, and seeing her reaction, Alice giggled a little. Alex, the thief who listens to his sister's words, gives a thumbs up. "My sister seems to be a good girl. I should reward her in the future." I doubted her unnecessarily. Even my lord had told me to stop using the honorific title, but I couldn't. "Calling him sir since years ago became a habit," Raya replied. "Elder sister Raya, why are you acting like a naive child? You should show some coldness and let big brother run after you. From the beginning you have been running after him and taking care of him. Now he should be the one running after you. Try to just avoid me and put distance for a few days. You will see how effective it is. Men are always like this. If you get caught up in them easily, they will get part of you," Alice advised Raya. "Damn it. She is not my sister. How dare you give such a perverse idea to my lovely Raya? You are sullying my Raya," Alex muttered to himself with an angry expression. "This girl is only 17 years old and hasn't even fallen in love, and she is trying to lead my Raya astray. Raya, don't listen to her. Your husband is the best, but what if my lord gets angry and starts ignoring me for real?" Raya spoke in a worried tone. Alice pondered for a moment, thinking about Raya's words in this case. There is only one option. Raya's eyes lit up as she looked at Alice with expectant eyes. "Then you should be proactive and take your brother into your arms and try to cook rice with him. Once the rice is cooked, what can big brother do next?" Raya, who heard Alice's words, was startled for a moment, and her face turned so red that it looked like she had caught a fever. Smoke could even be seen rising from her head. Even Alex felt embarrassed when he heard Alice's words. Who the fuck made her a princess? Is she a princess of an empire or a street hooligan? Alex cursed and, unable to bear it any longer, he slammed the door and coughed a little. After all, who knows what kind of crooked idea he might give Raya? "Raya, are you here?" Raya, who heard Alex's sound, suddenly thought that Alex might have heard the words and jumped in fright. Alice, whose condition was not far from Raya's, thought of finding a hole and hiding in that hole. Chapter 168, Twisted Thoughts 2. Crow. The door opened after a while, and Alex looked at Raya and Alice standing side by side with a guilty expression. When Alex raised her head to look at Raya, she tried her best to look away. Alex's lips curled up a little at the side of her, and she spoke with a sad expression. "Raya, what happened? Why are you looking away from me? Did I do something wrong or hurt you?" Alex took a step forward, making Raya flinch a little. But before the little cat could escape, Alex appeared before her and took her soft hands and spoke to her with a sad expression. "Please punish me, Raya. Maybe it's because of the recent events that I'm not taking good care of you, and that's why you're angry with me. Gee. I'm ashamed of myself. No, that's not what my lord thinks. I was just surprised by your sudden appearance. My lord has always been the best. If you're not angry, then kiss me." "Hoo-ah. But my lord," Raya squeaked like a mosquito upon hearing Alex's words. "You can't. I see you're angry with me." Alex sighed with a pained expression. Rhea couldn't see her lord's depressed expression and gave Alex a soft kiss on the lips. Alex wanted to kiss her deeply, but due to the presence of a being known as the third wheel she can't. Alex smiled a little looking at Alice, who raised her head wondering about the weather today. Boy, did you see? My relationship with my wife is quite harmonious. You don't need to add any more spice to her life that's already too spicy for me. After showing the ode of love to Alice and demonstrating his harmonious affection for Rhea, Alex asked her to give him and Alice some face. Rhea nodded and like a gust of wind disappeared as quickly as possible. She was already very embarrassed and was sure that her lord had heard their internal discussion. With Catherine and Christina's presence, she couldn't spend all her time with Alex like before, so every moment with her lord was a precious moment that she should cherish. I should follow Alice's advice and be more proactive with my lord. After all, I have all the rights. We've already cooked rice once, so it shouldn't be bad to cook it a second time, Rhea said with a resolute look as she walked out into the hallway. Alex, who didn't know that the crooked sprout had already been planted, stared at Alice, who was trying her best not to look him in the eye. Did Big Brother hear everything? Oh my. He won't consider me a pervert, will he? Alex coughed a little to get Alice's attention and said, Alice, I wanted to talk about something. Yes, Big Brother. Alice raised her head like an obedient child. Alice, did you come here with the Emperor's permission or did you sneak in? You know my situation very well. No, Big Brother, I haven't snuck in. You can see that I came with my guards and my visit won't cause you any trouble. Rather, anyone who causes trouble will be troubled by me. Alex knew that this girl hadn't snuck in. He just wanted to involve her in the topic. Alice stared at Alex's curious gaze and said, Big Brother, I just found out about the things that are happening here. Big Brother, you know, you've caused a stir in the capital. Alex's lips twitched and she blinked a few times with a surprised expression. Alice noticed Alex's emotions and began to explain. Most people didn't know about your recovery until the war started and Amidon was defeated. You becoming normal was quite surprising. And you also knew that you had no chance of being crowned, nor did you want to join the fight, but the profit seekers wouldn't sit idly by. Some might try to get close to you and instigate you, while others might try to make you a puppet king to cause unrest. The prince fighting for the thrones can use you to destroy the other party. I'm the apple of everyone's eyes now. Everyone wants a bite to eat, Alex muttered as she rubbed her forehead. Alice nodded vigorously. When the envoys were selected, I begged the royal father to allow me to come here. With me here I don't think anyone will try to get close to you or harm you. I think father thinks so too and assigned the legendary knight for that reason, Alice said, puffing out her chest proudly. Oh brother, one more thing. Alice stood up and walked over to the table pulling the drawer as she pulled out a letter. Sister Yvonne asked me to deliver this letter to you. Alice handed the letter to Alex. Yvonne, Alex frowned. What does he want now? Alex thought as he thought of a new headache coming his way. Is it real or fake? It's real, Alice pouted and puffed out her cheek. And there's no one daring enough to imitate or seal after Sister Yvonne can be considered as an unofficial princess of Kinley. I didn't think you two were close enough for her to send you a letter, Alex said with a surprised expression. Why aren't we going to be closer? After all, she is my sister-in-law. And except for you, none of the princes have ever gotten married for real. They all have an engagement. How can they get married? There are no scapegoats like me, she muttered. Alex tore open the envelope and began to read the letter. Big Brother is going to read it seriously now, Alice said with a dissatisfied expression, but Alex ignored her and focused on what was in front of him. Alex's expression remained unchanged, but inside he was shocked by the content. Alex heard that Yvonne had a very bad temper to the point that Rhea didn't like her, but even after that she had acted on his behalf. Though in the end she wrote that it was all for her sister's safety, which made him laugh. Hey, Alice, when are you coming back? Big Brother doesn't want me here. It's not that. I'm glad you came and I just wanted to know how long you can stay here. Alice's expression brightened and she said, I'll come back with you when you go to Zenith. I see. Chapter 169, Returning. Alex, after chatting with Alice, walked out of the room with a joyful expression. It can be said that Yvonne's letter was a gift from heaven to him. Before coming here with Alice's help, Yvonne had introduced 3 transcendent rank knights into Alex's guard, who would obey Alex's orders and for now, fly with him. But if one looks closely, one can see that 3 knights can act as guards for his wives, leaving him vulnerable. That last can't bear to send another one for me, and Yvonne had carefully listed a number of things to keep in mind when he visited the capital. There would be many who were waiting to trample him to prove their pride, but besides that, they are watching his movements carefully. And she also told him to contact her when he arrived at the capital. Though the second half of the letter was filled with Athena's concern. Alex heard that Athena wanted to come here but was stopped by Yvonne and only calmed down after being told that Alex would be visiting Zenith in a month. Alex held the letter tightly and spoke with a burning gaze. "Wait for me. I will come for you all soon." Alex had been living in Amidon for a while now and had almost sorted out the whole mess. The mountain of documents he had to go through was almost driving him crazy. Fortunately, Christina was with him to lighten his load. Alex, with his good and bad hands, managed to find the experimental chamber that was used to increase strength. There isn't much left there though. It's possible that Lamar took the researcher with him. He even pointed things out to the envoy, though he knew that in their eyes it didn't matter much. Rather, if it was leaked to other people of high authority, they might try to obtain the method to strengthen themselves. But he needed to point out a cause or a reason to muddy the waters. Alex decided to leave the management of Amidon to his most faithful and loyal slave, surprising many, but Alex asked them to believe in him. Now it's time to leave Amidon and return home. Standing in front of the castle, Alex was waiting for the others to leave as he conversed with Josh. Mr. Josh, you see that there are links to a mastermind in this whole mess that point towards Bright. Josh frowned upon hearing Alex's words and asked, "Are you sure about that?" Alex nodded and said, "Since Amidon has paid his debt, shouldn't we also look for Bright?" Josh's lips twitched uncontrollably upon hearing Alex's words, and he wondered if Alex wanted to swallow Bright in this process. "Isn't it enough for you to get a huge chunk like Amidon for now, King Alex? I understand your point, but attacking them and invading their borders will bring you trouble, and you will be considered the aggressor. The Empire always profits from conflict and sees the best possible scenarios. If the aggressor who started the war had a good cause and had proposed benefits to the Empire, there should be no action, but if the aggressor harms the interests of the Empire, there are chances that their right will be revoked. Since you are very close to the princess, I tell you this, the scales always tip in search of profit and balance. I know, Lord Josh, but what if Bright is the one who attacked us first?" Alex said as his lips curved upwards with a slight smile. Josh looked at Alex for a moment with a stiff expression. "What did Bright do to offend you?" Josh asked with a curious expression. He could see that Alex didn't want to declare war on Bright for power or fame, but there was a hint of hatred and anger towards them. Alex gave a mocking smile and spoke. "Bright hadn't done anything wrong. They simply recruited some bandits and smuggled our resources, took our people as slaves and used the beastmen under my command as lab rats and tried to drive the merchants out of their territories. It's no big deal. They just wanted to play in our territories." Josh gulped, and the more he listened to Alex talk, the more scared he became. He could feel a chill running down his spine, even as Alex was smiling in front of him, as if her smile was just a hallucination masking the anger behind it. All of this is reason enough to wage a full-scale war. If what Alex said was true, then the reason was more than enough to crush Bright. But Bright wouldn't be so foolish as to openly discard Nevin's authority and might be playing from the shadows, which is why King Alex might be angry. And Josh may not have seen it with his eyes, but seeing the massive destruction that had been left on the walls along with the front, anyone could guess that it was a single attack and it was Alex who did it. While Alex and Josh were conversing cordially with each other, Alex's attention was drawn to the prisoner being dragged around like a beggar. Angus was ordered to go with Josh to the capital where he would receive punishment, but Angus saw it as an opportunity to escape rather than a punishment. Even Alex knew that the man with the strings would surely pull the strings to eliminate Angus and might act to rescue him in disguise to kill him. All the soldiers had lined up and protected Alex and his wives as they took Angus away, as they feared that he might attack them. After all, Angus still had the strength of a transcendent rank, so even Alice had moved forces to protect her elder brother and sister-in-law. Angus, while being led by the soldiers, wanted to glare at Alex and mock him. He had clearly said that he couldn't kill him and that once he escaped, he would make Alex's life miserable. But her expression froze as soon as her eyes met Alex's. There was no anger nor any trace of hatred in Alex's eyes. Rather, Alex had cracked a playful smile as he waved his hand as if he was bidding farewell to an old and dear friend. But Angus felt that Alex's smile was the devil's smile that would haunt him for as long as he lived. Not only Angus but everyone who noticed Alex's expression felt an ominous feeling. Catherine looked at Alex's smile that looked so innocent to the point that one could mistake him for a kind and forgiving person. Ben and Mordek looked at Angus with eyes filled with pity and sympathy. If this Angus had any brains, he should kill himself now, otherwise, only the devil knows what will happen to him, Ben said as he shook his head. Seeing His Majesty's smile, I can feel his miserable cry. I don't know what kind of crime he had committed in his previous life to fall into His Majesty's hands. Let us give our final prayer to the man whose courage was worth it while it lasted, Mordek spoke with a pitiful expression. For the peace of his next life, Amen, Amen. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 170, The Search for Talents. Angus set off with Josh towards the capital thinking about his future while his brain was racing through various situations. Alex sneered as he watched Angus leave. If you think about this, you're wrong. When Alex used the demonic power, he made sure to cast many curses on Angus, which gave him horrible nightmares. In addition, he used black magic on him that can harm him from miles away, just like voodoo dolls. From the moment Alex appeared, he was within his reach from the start. On top of that, Alex cast magic on him that can reveal his location, and Alex might also get a clue about the person who is involved in all this. In fact, it was the so-called stalking magic. Thinking about all the horrible spells Alex had used recently, he couldn't help but scold the man for teaching him such things. That devil bastard had an arsenal of dirty spells, and he still addresses himself as the preacher of justice and the being who judges the crimes of others. After the envoys left, Alex departed Amidon with his wives and Alice. After meeting Alice, although he hadn't let his guard down, he had comforted himself by thinking of the power Alice had in her to be disposable. With Alice's help, he was confident that they could avoid any life or death crises. But Alex had to get stronger as he couldn't just raise his rank in a day, he had to raise his level and obtain the stat points. And on top of that, he had to make others reach the rank of master as soon as possible. Alex's troops stopped at Right first. Catherine wanted to take a look at the Right capital before moving on. She was feeling nostalgic for not being able to see her people. As soon as Alex entered the massive city gates followed by Alice's carriage, shouts of joy and jubilation echoed throughout the square. All attention was focused on Alex, who was at the front. The people are outraged by Amidon's conduct in kidnapping their queen. Alex wanted to keep it a secret, but some kind of emotional bastard had leaked the emotions, amassing immense hatred towards Amidon among the masses. Alex sat on the horse and was at the head, followed by 2 transcendent rank knights due to Alice's order. The people looked at Alex with respect and reverence. Their king, who they had branded as a fool and a disgusting pig, was not at all what the rumors said of him. His golden hair shone under the rays of the sun, shining with a golden austerity. Her ruby-red eyes added another charm to her appearance. Alex looked around the plaza filled with all sorts of people. A single glance from Alex was enough to set any maiden's heart racing. For a moment Alex thought about showing them his love, but upon noticing the intense gaze coming from the carriage, he knew he would be courting death, so he simply raised his hand and waved to the masses. It's been a while since he used Eyes of Truth. Due to his busy work, Alex hadn't looked for talent for a long time. He recently used it on Catherine, who had average potential. He wasn't surprised by the information, as he knew Catherine was the type to use her brain to corner her opponent. On the other hand, he was surprised by Alice, who had a high level of potential and was already at the peak of the disciple rank, although she didn't have any specific kind of talent. Alex raised his head and his gaze seemed to encompass the entire plaza, his eyes shining with a greenish glow as he activated Eyes of Truth. Alex swept around the surroundings and found nothing interesting, though there were still quite a few people with average potential that he could recruit into the army. Still, Alex noticed that the people here seemed to be much better than Nevin. Out of 100 people, Alex can find 20 to 30 people with low potential, unlike Nevin, who can only find 2 to 8 out of 100. Perhaps this was because there was less population in Nevin, and also because many had left Nevin unable to tolerate the calamity. As Alex's eyes swept through the crowd, his eyes fell upon a certain individual. His eyeball opened wide and nearly popped out of its socket. Alex felt like this might be a dream and tears welled up in his eyes. Name, land rank, none class, none potential, high talent, magic, has a good memory. My God, I can't believe this, finally someone who has the talent to become a magician. No, he can become a magician. Mages with a lot of talent were known as magus. Anyone who can cast a spell and use magic is known as a magus, but a magus can only be called a magus when he can cast a spell above level 5. I can't think there's ever been a better time than this. I was previously skeptical of making a stop at right and ran straight to Nevin, but because of Catherine's request, I have to take a detour. Alex didn't want to miss the opportunity and stopped the fight and directly jumped off the horse and walked towards the boy. The knight standing behind was surprised by Alex's sudden behavior and jumped down and followed him. Inside the carriage, everyone was shocked to see Alex. What happened? Catherine asked with a frown, fearing that someone might have done something bad among the people. She raised her head outside and asked Mordek, who was guarding the carriage as ordered by Alex himself. I think he's going to kidnap someone. Sorry, I mean he's going to look for some talents, Mordek said with an embarrassed expression as he had forgotten that the queen might not know Alex's nature. Don't worry, your highness. It's his daily job. Chapter 171, Talent Hunt 2. The crowd that was cheering at the top of their lungs suddenly stopped, and all the sounds echoing in the plaza abruptly ceased, and the entire place fell silent. Alex just smiled bitterly as he knew that his recklessness might scare them away, but what else could he do? Talent scouting is an art. You have to be quick and brazen in that aspect to get an A+ grade. As Alex took several steps forward, the crowd shuddered and took a step back to make way for Alex. Generally, it was the knight or guard's duty to clear people out and let the high-ranking ones through, but they didn't even know where their king was heading, so they just formed a tight perimeter near him. Alex's eyes of truth were still functioning and he could see many talented ones in non-combat departments. These are the people who can form the backbone of society. Alex, who was walking towards the individual, noticed that the guy seemed to be afraid and ran back. Damn it, Alex knew something like this was going to happen. Hey, can you catch that limp-owned guy with brown hair? Alex shouted. The people who were looking at Alex quickly turned their heads towards the guy, and many thought that this guy might have done something wrong and started to pounce on him. The poor guy, who didn't even know what crime he had committed, was tied up from all sides and dragged around. Stop, I haven't done anything wrong. Why are you doing this to me? Shut your mouth, the king had called you. Who knows what kind of evil deed you have committed? People screamed and dragged the guy towards Alex. Alex, noticing that the situation was getting out of hand, quickly approached the boy who looked at him with teary eyes. Your Majesty, I didn't commit any crime. Even if I have offended you in some way, please forgive me. Alex shook his head as he watched the fellow beg. All right, you can leave it, Alex ordered. Hello, I know I've upset you, but may I know your name? Alex asked embarrassedly. The boy wiped away his tears and weakly muttered, Your Majesty, my name is Lan. Alex nodded and said, Lan, I can see that you are quite talented and gifted in the field of magic. If you follow me and learn magic, I'm sure that one day you will become a renowned magician. Alex's words felt like thunder in Lan's ears and his jaw dropped to the floor and he rubbed his eyes in disbelief. He wondered if he was dreaming or if this king was joking with him. He got up in the morning and went to work, but when he heard of his arrival, he stopped at the square to see the king. Batu knew that the king would come to him and ask him to follow him. Your Majesty, can I become a magician? I don't know anything about magic. Although I can sense the mana around me and can use it a little, I can't do anything more than that. Alex beamed at his words and pointed to his eyes. Lan, do you see these eyes of mine? Nothing can be hidden from these eyes. Alex spoke with a proud expression, but those around him couldn't take their eyes off him and looked at him in awe. But more than that, they were stunned that King was able to identify a talented person who previously looked like a miserable beggar. Alex smiled as he looked at everyone present and said, Listen up, my most loyal citizens, there are many rough stones and diamonds hidden beneath the dust. Many of you are talented in many aspects, and each of your talents is useful to the kingdom, and if used properly, can bring us to a higher level. Alex's figure floated up and rose to a certain height of about 6 meters from the ground. Look at that guy with glasses. Alex's voice was amplified by the mana that resonated throughout the plaza. Everyone follows Alex's gaze in the direction he points to. That guy is good at calculating sums, although he may not be a scholar. That bald guy with a burly body is good at fine craftsmanship. That guy had the characteristics of a good and disciplined soldier. Hey, you, thin and slender guy who looks like a matchstick that can be blown by the wind and has a talent for swordsmanship. People's eyes sparkled when they heard Alex point at a few people. This is just a small part. Some of you may know your talent and some of you may discover it in the future. The only thing I ask of you is to do what you love and support the kingdom. Because even though it may make a very small difference in the present, the sum of it all will make a huge difference in the future. We will soon open a school for students aged 9 to 12 for whom education is compulsory, and after that, you can go to the academy that helps you get on the path you wanted to take. I'm not going to lie to everyone, the situation of our kingdom is not very good. We need soldiers, we need strategists, we need people who can handle finances and documents and a large number of blacksmiths. Although I'm not asking you to be a soldier, you can at least help us increase the kingdom's finances by doing the best you can. I hope we can work hard and with our combined effort we can take our kingdom and raise it to glory. For the glory of our kingdom, Alex raised his fist and shouted, which was filled with the voices of people like a tsunami. For the glory of our kingdom, for the glory of our kingdom, the entire place trembled as the bells of glory spread out like a shockwave. Catherine, who was sitting inside the carriage, looked at the scene with inexplicable excitement. It wasn't that she hadn't tried to implement education, but people didn't waste their children's time by sending them to school to a place where they could work and earn money. She had broached this topic with Alex, but she didn't know that Alex would preach about education like that. For a moment she thought that whatever the case was, Alex was a good man inside, even if he had a few screws loose. Or maybe a lot of screws are loose. Chapter 172, The King of Nevin is a Heretic? Currently in the capital of Nevin, a huge mass of people had gathered on the open streets, and in front of them was a wooden platform on which stood men dressed in white cloth, and behind them was a line of paladins and infantry. They were priests who had gathered the crowd in the absence of the king. There was no hint of piety that a holy priest should have, rather there was an indifferent and cold expression on his face. Barry, the head priest who used to be a priest in the Church of Nevin, abandoned it after its fall. When everyone was wondering where he had gone, this guy suddenly appeared with a pack of dogs. He looked more like a menacing bandit than a priest. He looked at the people kneeling before the platform and spoke in a calm tone. Citizens of Nevin, we have received a report regarding the King of Nevin. The King of Nevin, Alex, was just a pathetic fool who might have been a sinner in his previous life and was punished in this life by the goddess by turning him into a fool. But how can that guy who was punished by a goddess return to normal? We recently received reports that he used black magic in the battle against Amadon. We suspected that a demon had taken over his mind and wanted to destroy peace and cause chaos. We even feared that he had sold his soul to the devil and tried to corrupt the masses. Therefore, we seek your active collaboration in driving away evil. The children of God do not doubt the justice of this Father. I promise you that we, the servants who are chosen by the goddess herself, are the most righteous and noble, and as soon as we discover that they have no connection with the devil, I will personally take them all out. The words spoken by Barry caused a great commotion among the crowd, surprising everyone present. Everyone started chatting amongst themselves thinking about the words spoken by the head priest. A man gathered his courage and stood up and asked, "Father, aren't you falsely accusing our king? You all abandoned Nevin when we were in trouble, and now that Nevin is rising thanks to our king's effort, you are trying to prove that our king is a heretic." Barry smiled upon hearing the man's words and said, "Son, listen to me first. I had already predicted that there would be big trouble in Nevin, so I started preparing for it immediately. I know that things have been delayed, but for now they are not that bad. Think about it. The king of Nevin became normal a few months ago and declared war on Amadon, killing many innocent people. He killed many innocent citizens and children without any mercy. Only a person passed by the devil can commit such atrocities." Barry's reason instantly terrified everyone on the streets, planting a hint of doubt. No one knows the real situation or what had really happened, and Barry took the opportunity of Alex's absence and began to preach against him, trying to turn the masses against him. On the continent, no matter how prestigious or powerful you are, once the church deems you a heretic and a person who consorts with the devil, you will be hunted down for all eternity. This was why demons, known as devil worshippers, were criticized. Although it was all far from the truth, this was the church's way of destroying its enemies in the name of religion and belief. Still, openly condemning a king for this reason was not an exaggeration and was a shocking incident in itself. The quick-witted people began to wonder where this man had gotten the courage to defy their king. But knowing the authority of the church, they knew that their king was nothing before the power of the church. Barry's simple words suddenly set everyone on the path of despair. Many tried to raise their voices and retort to Barry that what he was saying was nothing but lies. But this only made the situation worse as they were pulled out of the crowd like a group of prisoners who committed heinous crimes. Those who accepted their fate were not treated harshly, but those who tried to resist were subjected to harsh cruelty. As such a scene of chaos unfolded, Bassi watched the group of priests with bloodshot eyes from a distance. He was the one who Alex had entrusted all the management and powers to, and he had performed his duty with the utmost importance. Although he was no saint, he had never committed any cruel acts. The only mistake he made was allowing himself to be blinded by greed. He embezzled some funds but stopped when he saw Nevin's condition worsening and even pleaded with the others to stop, but none of them listened to him. He always had a sense of guilt for doing this, and when the famine came and food resources became scarce, he used all the money he had stolen and even spent his own money to help the people. He had made sure that none of the people in his territory had to go to sleep on an empty stomach. He had not yet reached the point where he could not feel empathy and sympathy for others. And now the scene before him was truly beyond his expectations. With Alex being gone for over a month, many negative rumors about him were spread. And now the priest was spreading negative propaganda about Alex. He knew that someone had pushed around and used force to do these things. He wanted to act, but there were 3 epic-ranked paladins in the troops and currently, Nevin had none. He even thought about sending some assassins to thin out his force, but that would just cause more trouble. As Bassi tried to decide what to do, he saw the entire crowd suddenly fall silent. Barry held a golden scepter in his hand and nodded proudly as no one raised their voice against him after the harsh treatment. He was about to turn back when he heard a loud, clear voice. "Father, how can you bully people in such an unreasonable way? Did the priest preach that God is kind and merciful? Where is that kindness? All I can see here is violence." Chapter 173, The King of Nevin is a heretic too. Barry, who was walking back and leaving everything in the hands of his henchman, was suddenly stopped by a fresh and sweet voice. He felt outraged by the words and looked back to see a girl staring at the priest. "Girl, how dare you?" Barry shouted. He was in a good mood because everything had gone according to his plans, but his mood was ruined by the sweet voice of the little girl, who seemed to be a 13-year-old girl. "Father, you are doing something unreasonable and forcing us to accept that you are right when you have no proof. How can a devoted servant of the goddess act like this?" The girl spoke in an innocent voice, but the people around her already turned pale. They tried to shut her up, but she didn't listen to them and had now provoked the priest. Barry stared at the girl, who seemed quite kind and gentle. He snorted. "Your parents must be heretics, and they even taught you such things from a young age? Drag that girl and her parents away." The paladins overseeing things ran towards the girl and her parents, trying to catch her. But before they could get there, many armored guards appeared in front of them, trying to block their way. "Priest Barry, you are overstepping your bounds," Bassi appeared and shouted in an angry tone. "Did you forget your promise? I only allowed you to investigate things peacefully, but all I can see is that you are creating chaos all over the place," Bassi said, gritting his teeth. He had already sent a letter to the king explaining the current situation and that he might possibly be on his way here. Since Bassi is unable to deal with them, he allowed them to spread their wings for now, but these criminals are behaving more like bandits than devotees of the goddess, as they twist all things using the goddess name. Only the king can deal with a cunning person like him. "Minister Bassi, you are standing in our way. You are preventing a priest from doing his job, which is equivalent to trying to interfere in the goddess's judgment. You have no right to have a say in this matter," Priest Barry shouted. "Priest Barry, I am currently overseeing Nevin in the king's absence. If anything bad happens to its citizens, the bill will be torn up in my name," Bassi said in a respectful tone. "Furthermore, you treat the citizens of Nevin as if they were some kind of scum. Where is the benevolence you all preach?" Barry's expression distorted and he shouted angrily, "Minister Bassi, although I may seem harsh, I am already showing enough kindness. If you stop me now, the next one who will come to investigate will be the church's inquisitor." Bassi, along with everyone's expression, contorted. After all, only a fool would not know about the church's inquisitor. It is the church's swords that take care of all the punishment and dirty work. Getting caught in their hands was equivalent to getting a ticket for a trip to hell. "Even after my repeated warnings, you will not back down," Barry said in a menacing tone. "I do not want to use this, but you all have forced me. I, a devoted servant of the goddess, will clear any obstacles in the way of the goddess work." He raised his golden scepter towards Bassi and the soldiers surrounding the insolent girl. He poured mana into his scepter, which glowed brightly, and a white beam of devastating light shot towards them. Judgment of light, like a laser beam, it headed towards them in a straight line. The sudden attack shocked everyone. It was quite a deadly attack, as no one had imagined in their wildest dreams that this man who proclaimed himself to be a follower of the goddess would suddenly rush in to kill someone when both sides were still talking. The soldiers stood in front of Bassi, even though they knew they stood no chance against the attack, but they could at least save the citizens and Minster behind them. Bassi's vision widened as the mass of white light appeared before him. The soldiers screamed in danger as they felt the scorching heat coming from the attack. Shit. A figure appeared before the soldiers out of nowhere and raised the huge sword covered in a bluish glow. Holding the hilt of the sword firmly, he swung the huge sword towards the white light, which was instantly cut down. The sword body shook slightly as it collided with a beam of light, and a strong momentum pushed everyone back, and both energies instantly disappeared. The people looked at the figure that appeared in shining armor and felt like they had seen that guy somewhere. "Sir, who are you?" "I think I've seen you somewhere," Bassi asked. The armored man turned around with a smile. "Bassi, it's been a long time since I saw you. I'm General Mordek," Mordek said as he raised his hand to stroke his beard, but then remembered that he had lost his beard. The entire place fell silent as he listened to the man's words and thought if it was a joke. They remembered Mordek as an elderly uncle with a long beard and some gray hair, but this guy looked like a man in his 30s. Bassi gulped, unable to comprehend what was going on, but before he could open his lips, a scream echoed from the wooden platform. "How dare you, ignorant human, stand in the way of justice," Barry shouted. Mordek scanned Barry and spoke with a sneer. "I don't know what crimes my innocent fellow citizens committed to be treated like this, and even if there is a misunderstanding, does the priest have the authority to arrest anyone as he wishes?" "Watch your words, you damn heretic," Barry shouted. Mordek grew anxious as he saw Barry trying to escalate the matter, but before Barry could give any orders, he saw a bright white light coming from afar. "Father Barry, it's a pleasure to have you here. There's something I want to talk about." Chapter 174, Proving His Innocence. Barry frowned and was horrified to see the man walking towards him with a dazzling light. His jaw dropped wide open and he couldn't close his lips for a moment. "I heard that you've been spreading propaganda trying to prove that I'm a heretic who knew all kinds of black magic and had sold my soul to the devil." Alex's loud voice resonated everywhere and suddenly ignited the flame of hope in people's hearts. The girl who previously tried to defend Alex was scared by a deadly attack, and her face was still pale, but her large crystal eyes were shining brightly and clearly. Alex noticed the girl and gave her a gentle smile as he patted her head. "Thank you for supporting me." Alex simply patted her and walked past her as he gently patted Bassi over her shoulder. "You've worked hard. Leave everything else to me." Bassi nodded as she heard Alex's confidence. Alex walked up the small stairs of a wooden platform and stood in front of Barry. "Your Majesty," everyone cried out in surprise as they saw their king appear at the critical moment. Alex stood in front of Barry and spoke to him with an indifferent expression. "Release my people and step back." His tone sounded arrogant, which made Barry angry, but even after that he couldn't retort the man's words and felt that the young man in front of him was very dangerous, which even gave him the creeps as his perception told him to step back as soon as possible or the consequence would be very terrible. As if everyone was hypnotized by Alex's words, they released their chains, and those who were dragging people suddenly stopped. The people who were released trembled and ran away. Alex stood in front of them but didn't say anything and just looked around with a calm expression on his face. Alex's mere gaze felt like a death glare, and wherever he looked, no matter the paladins or knights who were bullying the weak, they were suddenly terrified and trembled in fear. Even the three epic ranks standing behind Barry trembled in fear and felt as if a sharp sword was placed beside their necks as soon as Alex's eyes fell upon them. Alex nodded in satisfaction after seeing their reaction, and his gaze finally landed on Barry, who felt as if his soul had been pierced by a sharp knife. "Father, let's talk." Barry bit his tongue trying to muster up courage and said, "You, the king of heretics." Alex raised his eyebrows and his lips curved upwards. Then, "Father Barry, may I ask you one thing? Did I just hear you accuse me by calling me a heretic when my wife is the saint? If I had done something like that, shouldn't my wife have run after me with a knife?" Barry sneered upon hearing Alex's words and said, "King of Nevin, you're confusing something. Your wife used to be a saint, but she's been ousted from that position now and her current location is unknown." Alex put his hand on Barry's shoulder and paused slightly. Barry was startled by the sudden movement. The paladins behind him thought about moving, but Barry gave them a look to get them to move away. "Are you sure you're not confusing the facts? As far as I know, it was my wife who handed over the position of saint, and if you have any doubts, you can go to that carriage to clear it up." Alex spoke while pouting with his hand in the direction of that carriage. "Who up?" Barry's expression turned ugly as he saw the carriage that had the Kinley royal emblem on it. He felt as if something was stuck in his throat and refused to come out. "Is that the envoy?" Barry asked with a wary expression. "Ha ha ha. No," Alex laughed. "It's Princess Alice. She came to visit me. She would be very happy with the way you treated me." Her precious brother, Barry, along with another priest following him, felt as if the ground beneath them had collapsed and were struck by thunder upon hearing Alex's words. Some even looked at the carriage in disbelief, thinking that this might be a joke or that Alex was pulling some prank. But seeing the flags and strong formation guarding the carriage made their hearts palpitate. I think this might all be a misunderstanding." Barry changed his tone to a gentle and friendly one. After all, if Princess Alice were present here, he would be doomed beyond measure. No matter how strong the authority of the church is, it cannot undermine the value of the royal family. "Father Barry." Barry heard a harsh, chilling noise that made all the hair on his body stand up in fear. "Give me reason," Alex requested. "Our reason," Barry stammered upon hearing Alex's words. "If you still think I'm a heretic, use the judgment of light on me," Alex said with a solemn expression, shocking everyone present. The crowd and soldiers present on the street all cried out upon hearing Alex's words. They thought that the king was receiving a punishment while trying to prove his innocence. Inside the carriage, everyone frowned upon hearing Alex's statement. "Big brother," Alice's eyes turned cold. "That lowly priest dared to humiliate my brother and accuse him. I won't tolerate this." Alice decided to show herself and teach them a lesson, but Raya stopped her. "Big sister, what are you doing?" "Your brother is in trouble," Alice asked with a stunned expression. "Don't worry about him. Just trust your brother," Raya said. "Raya, it's not time to waste time. We're dealing with the church and we have no authority to speak out before them. If Alex refutes them, it will make things worse," Catherine said with a worried expression. "Catherine, you don't know my lord well. He already had a way to prove his innocence," Raya said and laughed a little. Catherine wanted to refute but was interrupted halfway by Christina's voice. "She seems to be enjoying this very much," Christina smiled as she watched Alex through the veil. Chapter 175, Proving His Innocence 2. The Judgment of Light was the attack that could only be used by the priest, who was a follower of the goddess Rebecca. It inflicts excruciating pain on those who have been corrupted or punished. But more than that, it had another use, which was to undermine superiority. If two people were to fight each other and were asked to use the Judgment of Light, then the one who had greater faith and belief or was blessed by the goddess herself could not be harmed by the one who had less belief. In a way, Alex is resistant to any attack launched by the follower goddess Rebecca because the attacks rely primarily on faith rather than mana. But this case is only true for the goddess Rebecca, not the others. If you were to apply this logic in front of the followers of the goddess of war, you would simply be handing over your head and body freely, for them to cut and tear into pieces. "Your Majesty, you're joking, right?" Barry asked with a smile, but Alex's expression didn't change much. "Father Barry, if you are not going to use the Judgment of Light, then allow me to use it." Barry's hands trembled and he almost loosened his grip on the scepter and looked at Alex to see if it was a lie. But he could see Alex's irrefutable gaze. "Your Majesty, how can you use the Judgment of Light? Why do you think only priests can use it? Come with me, I will show you my faith in the goddess." "Didn't you accuse me of being a heretic? Why don't I prove my innocence by using the Judgment of Light?" Alex shouted as he unsheathed his sword. The three epics were alarmed by Alex's sudden movement and appeared between him and Priest Barry. A small glow covered his head and his body began to glow and grew in a radius of 4 to 5 meters. His demeanor was imposing and his strength soared, and in an instant, his epic ranked power was completely exposed. His aura creates ripples in the air that pushes everyone back. They thought that Alex was going to attack Barry and coldly shouted, "King of Nevin, please don't go too far. Before the church, everyone is equal. Whether a king or a commoner, you want to show off your power of holiness in front of me. You're still a child," Alex said with a cold snort. Alex was blessed to the point that the goddess was almost squeezed out. He was the only one who received the blessing of the 5 goddesses, and about faith and belief. He was taught by the goddesses themselves and accepted them as his teachers, and even the queen goddess treats him as her own son. If it weren't for his kingdom restricting him, there would be no way he would lose even to the Pope in terms of holy power. Even without the use of the power of faith, he could stand up to the goddess of war and the devil. If only he could use the power of faith, wouldn't he become a god himself? And this guy would dare to call him a heretic and harm his innocent citizens by arresting them in his absence? The devil must be angry at this man because it was because of these kinds of people that he was treated as an evil guy. Alex didn't say anything and walked towards the three of them step by step. As he began to walk, an otherworldly phenomenon occurred that astonished everyone. A golden ring appeared above Alex's head and began to shine brightly. The ring condensed Alex's head into a golden crown, and Alex's body began to shine, radiating a brilliance that began to expand outwards, covering the entire area. For an instant, he seemed like the sun that illuminated the lives of countless people who had drowned in the darkness of despair. It shone brightly, suggesting the arrival of a new day after a night. The priest and the paladin were horrified to see the scene and feel the holy power emanating from Alex, filling their hearts with respect and reverence, as if they were before an almighty figure. Anyone who looked at Alex felt the urge to bow their heads and pray to him. Some even believed that God had materialized in Alex. The epic-ranked paladins were directly suppressed by Alex's power and were unable to move their bodies. Alex smiled and raised his sword and stabbed it out while pointing straight towards the sky. Judgment of the light. A beam of light emerged from Alex and a thick pillar of light shot into the sky. The entire sky began to tremble and shine for an instant, and as the light dispersed, everyone looked up to see that the cloud floating in the sky had a huge hole in it, and from there the sun's rays fell on Alex's body and bathed him in golden sunlight. After demonstrating and displaying his strength, Alex raised his sword and pointed at Barry and his epic rank standing in front of them. Now you tell me, Father Barry, if I complain about this to the church and accuse you of fabricating false evidence, what do you think will happen? Barry took a step back in fear, as if Alex complained about him, he would be in danger, and seeing Alex's holy power, the church would surely give him priority. Your Majesty, please forgive me, Barry shouted. You're apologizing to the wrong person, Father. Apologize to them, Alex said and pointed at the group of people Barry had scared earlier. Either you apologize or I'll punish you. The choice is yours, Alex shrugged. Barry gritted his teeth and bowed his head as he apologized to everyone. Let's go, Barry shouted. He was really in a bad mood today. He was about to retreat, but Alex stopped him. Hey, where are you going? Did I allow you to leave? End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.